Food is dummy expensive right now, so get it on the cheap with our special partnership with Every Plate, guys. You can get your meals for $1.79 per serving. We're talking $35 for 5 meals for 4 people. It is a crazy deal in times right now when food is super expensive, so I'm very excited to bring this deal to you. Check it out in the description down below before it goes away.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to
They did turn on Isaiah's mic.
Mid-season update show. You don't know me, I'm Isaiah. Dandy unfortunately couldn't be
Audio.
here today, so I am taking
Whoa.
and hosting this show. We got a ton to go over with balance.
They've got the audio of the camera guy, but not Isaiah, bro.
Brand new Nickelodeon event, which I know a lot of people are
Classic.
excited about that. But before we get into all that, I wanted to take just a quick minute and talk about, the hot topic that's been going on social media regarding the Smite World Championship. I just wanted to be completely open and transparent with y'all. We're not going to have any sort of news or info on that today. But I want to assure you that we see you, we hear you, and as soon as we have an update, we will share that out on social media. To be completely transparent, it's going to take a couple weeks probably. But just be on the lookout for that. We do hear you, and we see all of the feedback. But let's get right into mid-season.
Poor Isaiah got told right before he came on screen.
And I've got the awesome
we're not
design team
talking
with me.
about
I've
it.
got
We're not
Aggro and
talking about
Lermy
it. Tell
to
him we're
break
thinking about it, but we're
everything
not
down. What's
talking
going
about
on?
it.
Isaiah, buddy,
Isaiah's like,
I
okay,
know, right?
please.
It feels good to be back, right?
I'm glad to see you. I mean, we missed Andy, of course, but it's mid-season. It's time to really bring.
Exactly. You know how I could tell it was mid-season?
What's that?
Look at this packet.
Yeah, this thing could kill a man.
Shoddy is thick.
Yeah.
So it do be mid-season. Let's get right into it and talk about balance. We're going to kick things off talking about just some general changes here. Talk to me about Brawling. We're making some changes to the Brawling mechanic to where it's going to be the time is going to be increased for that Brawling debuff.
Right. So Brawling, you see it on your little UI icon all the time. It's when you're out of God combat, you're going to get reduced healing, and this is to combat out-of-combat lifesteal being a little bit too strong. It's to combat out-of-combat healers being
Fade
too
to
strong.
black, baby.
And we think this system has been very effective at those things. But there are these edge cases where items like Divine Ruin, Brawler's Beatstick, Toxic Blade, their anti-heal application duration was longer than the amount of time it would take for you to become not brawling anymore. And so with one anti-heal item, you could end up being 80% anti-healed very, very easily. And so it led to
Cameraman fell
a lot
asleep.
of edge cases that we didn't really like. So you'll see more changes later on in the patch notes that Divine Ruin, Brawler's Beatstick, Toxic Blade, items that have duration-based anti-heal like that, they will be going to 5 seconds. And now you will only be affected by brawling or anti-heal at one given time. And this will also help gods like Wukong who kind of take themselves out of the play space and begin to heal in their ultimate. It'll just feel a little bit more natural that way.
Cleaning some things up. Well, that's the only thing we got for general. Let's talk a little bit about some conquest-specific changes regarding XP. Lermy, you want to walk me through what's going on with that?
Exactly. So we had a really amazing update to the Conquest map in 9.5. We had the Knight's Keep. That was super cool, and we're really pleased with the way the trebuchets have impacted the game, the new obelisk features. That's been super, super cool to watch. But specifically with some of these XP changes, we noticed that supports were falling a little bit farther behind than most of the other folks on the map. So we wanted to help them out a little bit. We're increasing that base level of XP bonus, so that's going to be one really good helpful thing for them. And then of course, if they're in mid, whether that's the junglers or the mids doing it, or the supports showing up as well, the mid harpies are also going to get a little bit more XP, and that's just going to help everyone stay a little bit more even.
Most definitely. All right. Time for the exciting stuff. We're kicking right into it. Mid-season, we got to bring some new stuff,
Supports,
right?
you'll never get XP.
Let's talk about Glyphs.
Yeah.
Introduced at the top of Season 9. We're revisiting Glyphs for mid-season. Aggro, talk to me a little bit about our philosophy with Glyphs and kind of the approach we're taking in mid-season.
Yeah, so Glyphs introduced at the beginning of Season 9, super fun. We've heard the community requests for a lot more instances of Glyphs. So what we wanted to do with round 2 of Glyphs is what we've kind of called it, is address some common concerns and points from the community that we've heard in their feedback. So number 1, it's that some gods really liked their Glyph passives that they wanted, but didn't really want the tier 3 item it was on. Take a god like Arachne, who would really like something like Jotun's Ferocity, auto attack, focus passive on the Glyph, but she doesn't really want Jotun's that often. Also, there are god archetypes that didn't really feel like they had a Glyph that fit their playstyle super well. So I'm thinking low cooldown, low CC combo mages like Merlin or Raijin they don't want the attack speed from Nimble Rod of Tahuti, and they don't really guarantee their own Meteor super well from Calamitous Rod of Tahuti. Trying to address some of those and see where we can mix them in and solve both problems with
Some
one
crazy
instance
ones.
was a big goal for us. So
Some
we're going to
crazy
go over them
ones.
here in a second, but we are removing some glyphs and moving them to new tier 3 items. Any item that had a glyph that is losing it is going to get a brand new one, new art, new passive, the whole 9 yards. And then we've got a couple new tier 3 items that are getting glyphs for the first time. And some will be inherited, and some will be brand new. And I think the players are going to really like them.
I am stoked.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Well, let's get right into it, and let's talk about Jotun's Wrath. So, Jotun's Vigor, nothing happened to that. But Jotun's Wrath is getting a new glyph called Jotun's Cunning. Talk to me about what this new glyph for Jotun's is going to do.
Lermy, you're the Jotun's Cunning abuser in the playtest.
That's true. All right, so
There we go.
Jotun's Cunning is really, really about those characters that love to blow a lot of abilities and reset their cooldowns a lot. So I'm thinking your Thanatoses, your Tsukiyomis, characters like that who will be using abilities very frequently and trying to get that reset off a lot. So what you have to do to activate this guy, use a bunch of abilities, and then at the next
If you guys think that this is crazy,
or what is it, 25%?
25% instantly, yep.
Yeah, we messed around
y'all
with
are
those
gonna
numbers a
pass
little
out
bit,
by the
but-
time you get through patch
You know,
notes
some
today.
playtests may have skewed
You're
it a
gonna
little
pass
bit more
out.
than others, but
Lermy dropped like 80k damage
Oh
on a
my
Tsukiyomi
goodness.
game.
Yeah, so we
I did not have fun.
we've played a lot with those numbers, but we feel like 25% is a really good spot where you'll feel it, but it's also not too much where it's absolutely insane. And the important part is that it's the non-ultimate ability as well.
Yeah.
So that's not going to mess with the ultimate cooldowns.
Look,
at all.
no one wants to have Hunbats like get 25% of his ultimate cooldown back
Yes.
all at once. No one wants that. But
This is
for
like
gods
this is
Thor
like
and Thanatos,
low
you know, you
tier.
wanna use
This is
these
like
long-range abilities,
low
but they're so
tier
high risk, you know, that
craziness.
I got good
from
damage,
what's
but
coming
now
your
my
way
ability
today.
is down for a little bit too long, especially in the later game. Jotun's Cunning kind of gives you that ability to be a little bit tricky. You know, if you get your Cunning proc and they think your hammer is going to be down a little bit longer, all of a sudden it's back up. You get to turn that fight really well. This item's been really, really fun to play with, and I'm excited to see what the players do with it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Rod of Tahuti next, physical and
Sure.
magical. So Calamitous Rod of Tahuti, nothing happening, but Nimble Rod of Tahuti, that effect is getting moved to another item we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yep.
But Rod has a new glyph called Perfect Rod of Tahuti.
Yeah.
It's
Aggro, our resident mid laner, talk to
perfected.
me about Rod.
Yeah, perfected Rod of Tahuti. Maybe we should have gone with the old Rod of Tahuti passive because that really was the perfect Rod of Tahuti, but it had its own set of problems. That's why we didn't. No, perfected Rod of Tahuti, talking about those archetypes that didn't really have that at-home glyph. This was really designed for Merlin, Raijin, these gods that aren't going to necessarily guarantee their own calamitous proc. and
Killing
didn't want that
Chronos
attack
pendants
speed, but
awfully.
are going to be able to hit multiple abilities on the same target fairly quickly. So the idea is you want to try and mark someone with an ability. The mark's not going to last very long, but if you hit them with another ability while they're still marked, you're going to get a little bit of that cooldown back because you're expending 2 abilities to do so, and you get a little bit of movement speed. So it allows these poke mages that like to play, you know, just on the edge of the team fight, right over the wall, to get a little bit of extra utility. We're not increasing their damage outright. You know, getting your cooldowns back is damage in some ways, but it's not outright dealing more damage to you. It just makes
Wait
it feel
to see
like
your
I'm
guys'
being rewarded
reactions
for
to the stuff
doing
today.
what my
Oh
combo
man,
mage is
normally you're
supposed to
getting
do,
my
which is
reactions.
hitting
I already
multiple
know.
abilities
I'm
at the
getting
same
your reactions.
Well, next up, got another magical item, Bancroft's Talon. This is the first one. This is our first new tier 3 item getting glyphs.
right.
So for the first one, Nimble Bancroft's Talon is inheriting that Nimble Rod of Tahuti passive. But we also have Bancroft's Claw, which is a new glyph for Bancrofts.
Yeah, Lermy, you want to take those?
So
Sure is.
Bancroft's Claw is really meant for those kind
Sure
of
is.
mid-range mages that like to really
Yep.
get in the thick of things. I'm thinking your Jonquils, your Hades, just someone that really wants to be in the thick of the fight and that often builds a little bit tankier, a little bit more lifesteal oriented.
Yep.
What this item is going to do is
This is a
basically
fun one.
reward
This is
you
a fun
for
one.
getting in the middle of things and hitting a lot of people at once. It's going to give you a shield and it's going to give you some extra damage depending on how many people that you hit.
Yeah, basically, these gods that want to get in there, you know, Hades and Jonquil, 2 perfect examples, Hebo, Alquang, you know, these gods that have to be very close range. If they don't build enough damage,
The
then they're not
Claw!
really threatening. If they don't build enough tankiness, they just die too quickly. Bancroft's Claw kind of incentivizes you to build the damage. I know these numbers are going to be really scary. It's, you know, 1% of max HP
Yeah.
per magical power. Basically, we recognize that if you see an RDO that's full tank with a Bancroft's Claw and she's just getting a % HP shield for having very little power, no one's going to have a whole lot of fun with that. So really, it looks very complicated, but it's pretty easy. Build enough damage, and when you go in, you don't even have to hit everybody around you. If you just cast abilities and people are around you, because this can stack, you get 3 stacks. If I cast an ability and there's 4 gods around me, I'll proc on all 4 of them, and I only lose 1 stack.
Nice.
So it's per ability cast. So if you get in there with Hades, your fear all of a sudden gives you a big shield and does a lot of damage if you have enough power. So there's definitely some inherent risk reward to it.
Mr. and God, you're
but
scared.
This item has been
Strap
one
on
of
in.
the highest pop-off potential items, but has its consistency issues. But I think that is what makes it really fun.
Yeah.
You get those highlight reel moments,
Strap
but it's
on
not
in.
always super strong. And just real quickly on Nimble, Bancroft's Talon, we felt like this is a really good spot for these magical ADCs who they were happy to get the Nimble passive. And Rod of Tuti's good on
We're
basically
not
every
even
mage,
into
but
breaking
they
Smite
kinda
rules
they
yet,
kinda lost their
y'all. We're
bridge
not
item a
even
little bit. A lot of them
close
really
into
especially our casual
the
players really like to go
game-breaking stuff that was
Bancroft's
coming.
Talon because of the lifesteal and power that it gives you early, but it kind of falls off late. Now, you get your Bancroft's Talon early, you're feeling great. As soon as it starts to feel like that item's losing a little bit of effectiveness, just pop 600 gold in the bank on it, and all of a sudden, you're getting attack speed from it at the exact same time. So it's really smoothed out the power curve for some of those magical ADCs.
And one very important thing not to forget here is that Bancroft still has its original passive as well
That's
on
right.
top of that. So
Yep.
you are going to be getting some extra power the lower you go. So again, with that risk reward, I mean, you make those risky plays, they're about to go even harder.
Yep. Hades mid.
I know, right?
I was loving it,
We
dude.
love to see some mages get active, for
Yep.
sure.
Absolutely.
All right,
PTS
let's
has
talk
usually
about
come up on
another new
Fridays.
item that's getting
Fridays.
some glyphs in this mid-season update. The Executioner. Lermy, I think you spoiled one of the Executioner glyphs on social media.
Yes, I did.
Well, talk to
Man.
me about the Ferocious Executioner. This is an inherited glyph from
Yes,
Jotun's
exactly.
Wrath.
Yeah, so we felt like Executioner was a really great item to choose, mostly because it had some flex potential for both hunters and hunters and junglers.
Executioners
there we
in
go.
town, baby.
And it also was just a really good bridge item as well. So again, you could get it, it feels really good, and then you get to the late game, you're kind of like,
You're gonna love- you're gonna love the
this
other
in
one.
particular, again, we talked.
You're
a little
gonna
bit about
love
earlier
the
how
other
Jotun's
one.
Ferocity
Don't
was
even worry
good,
about it.
But not
Don't
really
even worry about
great
it.
on those auto attack assassins that you wanted to pick it up on. But now not only does having this glyph on the
even
Executioner
worry about
bring
it.
it to a whole new audience, it also opens it up for those auto attack assassins that could use it as well.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
has been really, really fun to see on those auto
Where's
attack characters.
Seraph?
Yeah, it's
Where's
kind of
Seraph?
like ADCs always wanted this effect on Jotun's Ferocity, but they didn't really want to build
About to-
Jotun. Now
about to-
you get
about
this
to
effect
teach you
that feels
about-
really good.
about to teach
and
you
we were
about
really focused on
Nemesis.
making sure that ADCs had a glyph option that wasn't crit oriented. You want the splashy tier 4 new thing, but you're kind of forced into building crit in that way if you want, Envenom, Deathbringer, or Malicious
You're gonna
Deathbringer.
love it.
Now those non-crit ADCs, these ability-based
I'm enjoying
hunters,
this way too
Chiron
much.
loves a
Bro,
passive
I've been
like
sitting
this.
on this for a month.
Executioner feels good. It's as a lone attack speed item in a build like that, and all of a sudden you get a very, very strong passive to boot. So I think that even though this passive has been in the game, by the way, you still get Executioner's passive at the exact same time. Just putting it on this different item has completely revitalized it. I mean, in a lot of
for
our
sure.
play tests, the feedback was like, wow, this item is
good.
really hitting.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
All right, next up, the Heavy Executioner, the brand new glyph
Yes.
for the Executioner.
Yes.
What's going on with this one?
So this was the one that I specifically got to spoil on social media, if you guys saw that. And this one is insane, you guys. So basically what this does is it takes the Executioner passive and it turns it up to 11. You basically get even more prot shred, but there's a lower cap, so it's at 2 stacks now. And also, your attack speed is capped at 1.75. So what that means is even if you buy more attack speed, you are stuck at 1.75 as long as you have this item. And so just as a quick note for you guys that are like, well, what about Silver Branch? What if I get Silver Branch with this?
It does work,
It's basically
actually.
going to work exactly the same if you have a build that has 2.5 attack speed and you bought Heavy
Auto
Executioner.
attack,
As long as your
cancel
original
gods.
build still gets to 2.5, you will still get
Instantly apply
those
this.
stacks from
Instantly.
Silver Branch. Yeah.
Yeah, but you won't get like a million power just
Right.
because you're capped at 1.75. Yeah, I think that this item is really it's unique in how the glyphs work because every other glyph in the game inherits its tier 3 items passive. Executioner does not. This passive is instead of the Executioner passive. Default Executioner is 7% armor reduction, max of 4 stacks for 28%, but that means you have to hit 4 autos. Heavy Executioner is 17.5% max 2 stacks, so you're getting 35%, so another, 7%
Sure are.
more. and half of the amount of autos.
You sure
but with
are.
a pretty heavy downside. So we feel like this is a really interesting, if you're going to try and use this with your typical ADC build, it's probably not going to feel very good because that typical ADC build is really attack
That's not who it's oriented at.
Pop this in a dominance build.
It's oriented at gods like Nemesis.
All of a sudden, you're not attacking that
Who
fast,
aren't building
but
attack
you
speed,
are
they're
hitting
building
like an
for auto
absolute
attack
truck. And it's really
canceling.
great on auto attack assassins as well. Nemesis, Arachne, gods like that have really felt good with this item. And don't forget that Executioner passive works on objectives as well. So, you know, Fire Giant getting 35%
What's the
reduction
point
on
of
fire,
protections now, though?
Is that good? 'Cause
Don't worry about it.
think
We
it might
got a
be pretty good.
long way to
Yeah,
go.
I have to echo that sentiment of I tried this on Nemesis Jungle and those auto attack cancels with this item.
way to
Oh my
go.
goodness, they feel good. It is insane. So definitely try splashing this item in. Get used to that downside because of course it is still very steep, but I mean it's worth it. When you pop off with this item, oh my god, it feels so cool.
It definitely is one of those items that if you just plug and play it in what you have been doing, it probably isn't going to feel that great. If you try and be creative and figure out how to fit it in, I think that you're going to have a lot of fun with it and see a lot of
Exactly.
success.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, we got one more up for Glyphs.
Yes, sir.
And this is our first tier 3 item with 2 brand new Glyphs.
That's right.
Magi's Cloak. I'm excited about this one because I know this is one of my favorite items.
I
you get
heard
the
that.
bubble. There are going to be a lot of different bubbles going around on the battleground. So let's talk about Magi Shelter first. Aggro, what's going on with this one?
Yeah, so Magi's Cloak in general, I don't think anyone is really arguing that it's a
More
very strong
bubbles!
item when it's good, but it's hard to fit in the build, you know, all that kind of stuff. And there are times where, as a carry player, I really wish I could buy Magi's, but I just can't fit it. In those situations, I'm going to hope that my support or warrior or someone else is going to have the opportunity to buy Magi Shelter. So the way Shelter works is that when your bubble gets popped, you're going to look for your nearest ally within its range, and if there's an ally in the range that doesn't already have a bubble, so that they don't, you know, stack and all that kind of stuff, they're going to gain a Magi's bubble for a short amount of time. So you get to really be a little bit more defensive with your options, kind of like an aura Magi's in a way, but it's only going to apply to one ally near you. So, you know, this is an item that we saw probably, I'd say, this was the item that was most popular in a lot of our playtests and easiest to pick up and see a lot of success with, because if no one's around, oh well, you know, you've got Magi still, but if there are people around, it feels really, really good to get it. But as an enemy, you know, with the duration being a little bit shorter than we initially started playtesting at, that kind of stuff, we feel like that there is enough time where you can wait out that Magi's bubble and then still be able to play around it a little bit later.
Yeah, and again, like we have tested as well, like 5 people buying Magi's Shelter, and it doesn't really work very well like that because you try and pass around the bubble, but it doesn't. It's like you can't do it because everyone already has a bubble, and every time that the bubble gets popped, like you're not even passing it to anyone at that point.
Yeah, the more Magi's that are on your team, the worse Shelter gets. But if you're the only Magi's user and you've got Shelter, and you're going to be, you know, next to your backline or next to another frontliner, you feel like you're always getting some benefit from it. So this is we really like where this item ended up in the sense that it is easy to execute on. It's great on frontline supports. You know, a lot of these all the other glyphs so far have been more damage class based. This one feels really good as a frontliner to feel like I'm helping my team, and I'm still getting the benefit of myself.
Most definitely. All right, and as is with all of our glyphs, we kind of have one option that's kind of in line with what the item passive already does, and then we have another glyph option that kind of goes completely left field. And Aggro, I know you spoiled this one on social media.
I did.
Talk to me about Magi's Revenge.
Yeah, look, sometimes you get annoyed when someone pops your bubble, right? Like you bought it to get popped. I understand that. But at the end of the day, I don't want to lose it. It looks nice, you know, I feel comfortable with
shiny.
it. Right, it's shiny. I want to get some revenge on the person who pops it. So this is really great. Shelter is very good for your defensive-oriented Guardian. Revenge, I think, is excellent on dive-oriented assassins.
It's a spooky
and
one.
dive-oriented warriors who are going to be lone agents going in there. And whoever pops their bubble becomes marked for revenge. And if they are marked, then that god is going to take increased damage from all sources.
Thanatos literally
and give
running
enemy
yo
gods
ass
movement
down.
speed. So basically, if they pop your bubble, you get movement speed. And so do any allies around you that are near the god that has that mark. So it really forces players to think like, do I even want to pop
I really
this
want to
bubble?
do this right now? Yeah.
Can you do it? Because I don't want to do it. And it just enables those backline dives to be a little bit better. And hard CC is great in the game, and it will be.
This isn't the
until end of
crazy
time.
part
Making
yet.
sure that someone can't do what they want to do is inherently powerful. finding ways to have interactive interaction points. That's a really good phrase. To make players think, is this the right time for me to use my hard CC, and not just have it be blanket good all the time. We
Stop
think
it,
it's a really
Patrick, you're
cool
scaring
design
him.
space for us to explore and try and remove some inherent strength from hard CC, but keep it strong.
What are
in
we
the right
going to do?
situations.
We're going to do a lot of relearning how to build
That
and
wraps it
play
up for
Smite.
Glyphs. I'm
That's for
super
sure.
excited for players to get their hands on them.
That's for
I'm also
sure.
super excited to see how these new Glyphs kind of open build paths back up. Lots of new options for people to try and get creative with those builds, but we've got something else that's going to kind of open up those build paths a little bit more, I think. We've got a brand new item tree for the first time in
Here we go.
2-3 years since the
Here
Arthurian
we go.
item.
2019, yeah.
2019, goodness gracious. Time is a construct at this point.
About there.
But we've got a brand new
we're gonna
item
kick-
tree
kick it
coming
up
in
a notch.
mid-season. We've got earrings. Everybody's getting glammed up. We're getting the jewels. We're getting the ice. I'm super excited to go over this new item tree. But tell me a little bit about, with every new item tree, we like to theme them a little bit and have all the items in the tree do a specific thing. Talk to me about the approach for this new item tree.
Sure, so the
You're gonna
Arthurian
love one
items
of
were our
these.
last brand new item tree, and that's definitely the best comparison. That was kind of the building blocks that we went off of for this item tree, because there are a lot of things that were really successful about the Arthurian tree. It had an item for almost every class.
No pants, but you get
It
earrings.
can build off all of the same tier 1, and it changed the way you played on a really fundamental level. We did something brand new. And that was really the goal we went in with these earrings, is we want to have an option for a lot of different archetypes. So it is all building off of one tier 1, just like Arthurian items, but there's a lot of tier 2s just in that same way. And secondly, we wanted it to change the way you played in a way that we haven't done before. And I think that we've really done that.
Oh,
I mean,
boy, it does.
I think so
some of
too.
them, yeah,
It
this is
do.
the spice corner for sure.
It
I feel
do.
like there are two, I'll say there are two that are what I would call mask-like, in that they break rules but give you a little bit of a downside at the same time. And then there are two that do something that we've never done with an item in Smite.
Let's go.
So I'm really excited.
I'm excited.
To show it
Well,
off.
let's get past the tier 1 and tier 2s really quick and talk about the spice.
Yeah.
So the tier 1 is going to be mystical earrings. It's 400 gold, and the stat is just plus 15 MP5. That's your tier 1.
Yep, just like Arthurian items, the tier 1, pretty inefficient. This is a different route. That was very expensive for kind of a luxury stat. This is very inexpensive for a non-luxury stat. The way, items have to all have the same stat that they're building off of from their previous child items, so we wanted to get something that is applicable to all of these, but this is not intended to be a particular.
Prepare your keyboards.
All right, next up, the tier 2.
Especially depending
is gonna
on
be
which ones they
gleaming
go
ear
with
cuffs, and
first.
it's going to build into the first tier 3 that we talk about, but it's just got some base stats, some power, both physical and magical,
Okay,
plus
okay.
attack speed and MP5.
We're doing this side
Yeah,
first.
we
All
can,
right.
I think we can just kind of go through all these tier 2s real quick, because
Yeah.
none of them are going to have any passives, just trying to get you to those really spicy
Cool, let's do it. So the tier 2 Jewel Studs is going to build into Sphinx's Bauble, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Again, physical and magical power, but cooldown reduction and reduction on MP5 here.
Yep.
The other tier 2 is going to be Rose Spike earrings. It's going to build into Manticore Spike or Fey Blessed Hoops. Stats on that are going to be health, MP5, and HP5 on that. But
Yep.
let's talk about the tier 3s now. Let's
It's
talk about the
time.
spice.
Let's go.
Spice time.
First tier 3 Griffin Wing earrings. I believe Clumsy tweeted this
Yes,
one
he
out.
did.
did.
Yes,
I'm
he
excited
did.
about
He
this
was the
one.
mad scientist.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
say that.
Well,
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about what this item is going to do.
Well, I mean, you want to break the news on what's going on, or you want that to be me in an exciting way?
No, this is so cool.
So cool.
We've never done anything like this before with our items, and so
Nope.
a Griffin Wing earring
There
basically
you go.
allows you to have hit scan-esque auto attacks. So what this does is every auto attack is a projectile, or basic attack is a projectile. And so what we've done is when you buy this item,
Yep.
your projectile speed for your basic attacks only gets increased by 40%. So they go 40% faster. But
Sure
there is a
does.
trade-off to this, like you said, mask-like. You are losing 15% of your basic attack damage,
Faster
and that's on everything,
projectile
basic attack.
speed.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, hitting more auto attacks, and it is much easier to hit auto attacks once you get used to the speed, is just inherently strong. So we felt like there needed to be some type of downside here, or else this would just be such a core item, because guaranteeing more autos is just good. 40% might not seem like a lot. It is basically impossible for anybody to quantify what that feels like.
Exactly.
It's fast.
It's fast.
It's fast.
They're bringing the heat. You know what I mean?
It's
It is
fast.
crazy. And what this does to the feeling and the way that you trade and that you basic attack is just, it's so much fun. And I can't wait for people to get a chance to just mess around and see what they can do. I mean, we've done like every test we can think of on like how does it feel when you're Ola run in your ultimate and using Griffin Wing, and like you literally can barely see your basic attack projectile because it's so fast.
Yeah, how does it feel with Izanami? How does it feel with Charybdis? Like these are characters that I'm so excited for you guys to go and get a chance to try out because we have had so much fun giving it a shot as well. But one important thing to note is that this is for hunters and mages only.
Correct.
We wanted to be sure that we were keeping it to characters that really could use it.
Yep.
And so, as you know, a lot of the other classes are melee. They can't really use this because they don't have projectile-based basic attacks. So we want to make sure that people are not buying this if it's just not going to work for them.
Sorry, you Mojo players.
Right.
So they're breaking the game again.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Oh, don't worry, we got more coming.
Sphinx's Bauble. This is going to be
I get all the fun
I know, right? It's like we set this up on purpose.
Okay, here you go. You're going to love
Something
this
like
one.
that. Yeah, so Sphinx's Bauble, again, kind of closer to what Griffin Wing is doing, just giving you some power, cooldown reduction in MP5, and then the passive is where all the spice is. And that is that your CDR cap is going to be increased from 40% to 60%. This is not going to be reflected on your UI, to be clear, but it is working, I promise. When you press the K button on PC or bring up your ability screen on console, wherever you are, you will see that those numbers are reflected. But your ability damage output and healing output is going to be reduced because you just get more of them.
Right, so another mask.
60%.
Right, so there is a downside, but I mean, pressing buttons is like all of the fun in Smite, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just want to press as many buttons as humanly possible all the time, and Sphinx's Bauble is great for that. And it's really interesting because you can build it on everybody. This one is not class locked, so
everybody,
every god in the game,
welcome to
how
Shields.
can they really use this 60% CDR? It is a build commitment in order to get there. You do have to build a lot of CDR elsewhere. There's only giving you 10% on its own, so you have to get a lot of it, but when you get into that mode, it feels really,
that
really
one
good.
is going to be a problem.
You're playing Omnipotence, right? All the time, You're just playing Omnipotence
I'm telling you,
it's
going to be a
really
problem.
This one is a little bit different in price. You'll notice that all the other earrings are very cheap for tier 3 items. Sphinx's Bauble is not, because we felt like this could be very easily become a core support item. And we are okay with supports building it. We think that's really interesting. But we don't want it to be a guaranteed pickup every game. We don't want it to be
Boomba's hammer?
They don't care about the
man.
downside nearly as
They
much.
work together.
They don't care much about their abilities dealing damage. They just want to use it for CC. But we think between the cost and the stats are being not really what supports want necessarily, that it can fill a luxury item role for them in a really fun way.
Yeah, we've tried this out on all 5 roles, and it has felt very, very fun getting to that point. Or rather, once you reach that point, getting to that point can definitely be a little bit difficult. But if you're in the right game, if you're in the right mindset, playing for that power spike is just like one of the coolest things that I've ever done in a base game of Smite.
Yeah, I will say don't build this until you're going to get it past the CDR cap. Because even if this is your first item, you get 10% CDR, and you lose ability damage.
Yeah.
That's not really what you want.
Yeah,
so
late game, late in the build,
Wait,
get
your 40%?
This is a 6th item.
Right. Oh, and I said I was going to do this on the patch notes show. Remember that one build from a year ago where Bobby had like 80% CDR on Yamoja?
He did say
You're
this.
welcome.
Oh my goodness,
This one's for you.
He did say he was going to do that.
Well, let's move right along to that one.
That's probably
it's okay, we got more.
Manticore Spike is going to be our next earring, and this one, bringing the spice again. Talk to me about what's happening with this one.
Yeah, so this is actually on the other side of the tree from Sphinx's Bauble and Griffin Wing Earring. This is on, these next 2 items that we're going to talk about are pretty similar in the way that they function in terms of the way that you interact with the play space. But they are very different in the effects that they give you. So Manticore Spike is intended to be kind of the supporting item for characters with a lot of CC. And so what this means is you CC someone,
this one's weird.
and then Manticore Spike drops
It's a weird one.
And so when you go pick it up, it gives you damage on your next ability, and your teammates can pick this up as well, and they can give you and give themselves that ability to do more damage. So if you are CCing someone and the rest of the squad's following up, make sure they're picking up that spike, because if they do, they're gonna be hitting hard.
little Soul Reaver procs, if you will. It's weird. It's very weird.
The flower offerings in the first Conquest map, and now the chalices.
It's a weird mini game.
Picking stuff up is just like fun.
Right.
We like picking stuff up, and so Manticore Spike and Fabulous Hoops are our first items that are going to generate buffs, so to speak, that are going to just drop on the ground in the midst of the team fight that you or an ally can pick up, and that was really the idea behind them. Manticore Spike is definitely designed for frontliners in a way that It's going to give whoever picks up the spike bonus damage based on the user's max HP.
Right.
So if I've got Manticore Spike and I'm Ymir, I freeze someone, and my hunter
can be a lot
hunter
of
brains up
damage.
to the spike and picks it up.
Because what he
their
just
next
said is a
ability going
crucial
to deal
part.
3%
It's of
the
your
hunter's max
HP.
that picked it up. But if I'm the owner
Not
of
of the
Manticore
target
Spike
that
and
you're
I pick it up,
hitting,
I get double the
yours.
effect.
So if you have
I'm Ymir
4K
and I pick it
HP,
up, I freeze them, do my little auto cancel,
It's
pick up the
very
spike,
interesting.
then I drop my 2. That 2 is going to deal 6% of my health, max health,
That's nuts.
as bonus damage to them. It is not true damage. It is affected by mitigation, all that kind of stuff. But
So
it just gives the support players a little bit more agency in what they're able to do. But you have to jump through a pretty specific gameplay loop in order to get there. It takes some time, as we discovered, to like remember, like, oh, I should have picked up the spike. Like, even though it's right there in front of you, you're just not. It takes some time to get used to it. But I think we found that between this and Feyblast, dropping these extra little deployables around the battlefield and changing, your mindset on where I'm going to position, how I can do it.
It'll be
it has been really,
interesting
really fun.
if
You
they
see multiple
changed
gods, they all drop spikes. But you
that's
can't,
awesome.
you
The
can't pick them
last
all up at the
earring
same time.
at
You only get
all.
one. So you get that big
because
blink
it's for
pick up one spike,
healers.
knock up that dude. Pick up the other spike, roll into that guy. It's really like you feel like you're juggling a lot more things, but it's also very straightforward in a really fun way. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see this one in
So
action.
And I
we'll
love
see.
the mind games that come around this too. Is like
Yep.
you see the spike on the ground, your enemy sees the spike on the ground. You think I'm going to go right for this. Oh no! Oh, you were going to aim your soul crush there. Sorry,
Nope.
not going for that quite yet.
Don't need
Gonna take a second.
It's
And then
okay.
go
You've
in there
got
when you're
you've
all
got
done.
more
So
healer
I
changes
have loved
coming
all the
your
little interactions and things
way
that have come out
later.
of the testing that we've had with these items. And
Yep.
I
I want it
done
on the
so where
record.
I've
I don't
looked at
know how the
aggro,
next item
stunned
turned out,
him, and
but
he,
we
like,
specifically
plays to
told
try and
them
stop
to
me from
make
getting
sure the
spike,
item was
and
kind of
then I
poo-poo.
just don't go for the spike, and then
And
he's
then
put
someone
himself
else
in a bad
comes and gets the
position.
spike, and then
He's
I'm
get
like,
owned.
I've
see.
I've
made
been
a
defeated.
mistake.
Yes. Yeah, it's been
We
really fun.
specifically
Get
said,
underlined
please
game.
make
We've
sure that
got
the
one
healer
more,
item
tier
is
3
kind
earring
of
to talk
crappy
about.
because
Feyblast hoops.
otherwise
Spike's a
it will
little bit
not be
pointy. How
fun.
about we pick some flowers? Talk to me a little bit.
Okay, they
about
didn't go too
Feyblast hoops.
crazy on the
Feyblast
stats at
hoops
least.
are the item that is aimed at those healers a little bit more. So we decided that this drop mechanic felt very fun and that it felt very natural to do it when you're healing your allies. So if you're walking around, you heal an ally, a flower is going to drop in between you and the target that you've healed, and whoever picks it up is going to get a shield based on their max HP. It doesn't last for a super long amount of time. This is more designed to be in combat, running around, grabbing your flowers as you can. But in a very similar way to Manticore
much did they
Spike,
end up going
you
with it?
can do a lot of really crazy things with this. Right
70
before you start a fight,
units, flower
you drop a raw
drops, pick a
heal,
flower gives a
4
god
allies
equals
stand in it,
7.5%
4 flowers
of their
spawn.
max
Only one,
HP.
for
Okay.
abilities like raw heal, as soon as an ally
Could've
spawns a
been
flower,
worse.
they can't
Could've been
another
worse.
tick until that ability's done. But then it's a game of, okay, well, this person should get the shield, this person should get the shield. That person's not doing anything. They don't need the shield. That one's for me. But it really creates these chaotic moments in these team fights where
It
you've got
was
someone like a Baron
originally a
dropping heals in the
flat
middle of the team fight,
value,
and then
and it
your
was
ally
going to
gets
be
healed, and then a
pretty
flower drops,
nutty
and you're
for
like, "Get the flower, get the
squishies.
flower."
But it looks like they went the
Man,
other way
we
with
saw-
it, which
we
is
did some play
good.
tests that,
They went with a
I mean,
percent, so
literally
that way
the whole
Artemis
comms
isn't
were
getting a
just, "Don't forget your
250
flowers,
HP
don't forget your
shield,
flower."
you know.
And it just creates this
flowers, I
new,
know.
Or whatever.
yeah, it just creates this really new dynamic that has been a really, really fun gameplay loop. And like
You're
we said,
welcome.
you can see these flowers as the
You're
enemy, you
welcome.
know where they are, and you can try and play around those. But we feel like that this is going to be a really fun and exciting way to make the battlefield feel more alive and more unique with each different engagement. And it's not just when you heal an ally, by the way. It's also if an allied god dies around you, they'll spawn a flower. And that's a little bit of a nod to some of our longtime players for an old passive that I miss very dearly.
There we go.
Well, one more thing to add on to that is that we talked a lot about getting those flowers, but you actually do not get a flower if you heal yourself. So if you're Hercules,
Correct, that's a good point.
pressing 3, you're not getting a flower. But if you're Helm healing everyone else, yeah, you'll get a bunch of flowers. But
Yep.
does not work on self-heals, has to be on allies.
Yep, great point.
Y'all got so
All right, well, that wraps it up
much
for our
more
brand new item
stuff.
tree, the earrings. Again, I'm super excited for all that stuff, but we're just moving right along. We have so much to talk
The
about.
biggest
God,
one
we have
still hasn't been
more
talked about.
New stuff. Wouldn't be mid-season without an item rework, or how about 2 item reworks, right?
Yeah.
We're taking a look at the masks.
Here
this
you go,
update.
guys.
I know the masks have been really kind of, especially with the start
Here
of
we
season
go.
9 picked up, specifically looking at the support role with all the mage
This is
support
the
that
big
we've been
one.
seeing.
Yeah.
We are making some changes to masks to kind of open them up a little bit more. Talk to me about what we're doing.
Yeah, so just before we get into the details, I think it's good to go over why we decided to do this with the masks. And like you said, Lonos in particular has been unbelievably popular. this
Their
year.
starter items now.
ESET support, I mean, historically, Serket Fenrir support have really used that item effectively. And now, you know,
Robin.
we're all running away from Robin in our nightmares.
Exactly.
We think that our players have made it very clear that they love flexing their class, you know, doing something a little bit different outside the norm. And we think that our players really like being able to do that as early as possible in the game. If a player wants to play a mage support, they want to play a mage support from level 1, not once they get Lonos mask a little bit later on. And the way that the masks were also working, just being all at once as you buy it, you kind of go from like dealing a little bit of damage and being kind of tanky to dealing no damage and being super tanky all at once. And that steep drop off, and the opposite being true for Rangdas. That steep drop off just doesn't feel very good or intuitive to play as or against. And it also creates, you know, a big barrier to entry for our players who are just starting to, you know, figure
People
out what
play
they want to do,
masks,
their
they're
identity as a
going
player, how they want to build. Do you build Lonos mask second or third?
Every
wait
god
until
can
6,
play
like a lot of
every
these Robins do.
role, basically.
It's a hard thing to try and balance. So by making these starter items, we get to have you play as your class flex from minute 1, and we're introducing per level scaling on the effects in order to make that curve of losing damage and gaining tankiness in Lono's case, or gaining damage and getting squishier in Rangda's case, much more smooth and much more natural throughout the game. So we think that this is definitely, the masks are spicy by default.
They
You know,
definitely
those are,
are
they're going
spicy.
to bring some really crazy things, but we think that this gives us a lot more control and makes them feel a lot more player friendly, not just new player friendly, but established player, pro player friendly, and just more clear in their overall direction, which we're excited about.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well, let's
exactly.
start off with Protector's Mask. So
Yeah.
Protector's Mask is going to be a starter item, only purchasable by mages, assassins, and hunters, just like the traditional masks.
Yep.
Going to be giving health and mana as a stat. But the passive, like you said earlier, that tankiness and decreased damage is going to scale over time. So talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so you get a little bit of base damage reduction on dealt and taken, but you get a little bit more each time you level up. So it feels very natural. As a Guardian, you get tankier as you level up, more so than a mage does. So this kind of replaces that per level stat, but at the cost of giving your power. And also, we felt like if we gave you all of the damage reduction or damage dealt reduction right away, what's the point? You know, you want to be able to leverage the increased fight potential and clear that you have from a mage, assassin, or hunter when you're playing one of those in support. That if you were just trying to do a Guardian's job but better, most kits aren't going to do that very well. So we felt like this is a really good space to give you the opportunity to use your base damage early.
It does make
and then
God
have it
requests
fall off
easier,
very
for sure.
naturally throughout the game.
For
And
sure.
The mask side of the passive. So we're
Yeah.
bringing over, what the mask initially brought to the game into
Uh-huh.
a starter item, but we also wanted to add in an additional passive to kind of really let you play the role. So
Yeah.
these starter items are also going to have an additional passive that's kind of in line with, a traditional support starter item.
Yeah, Lermy, you want to cover that part of it?
Yeah, so basically this works very similar to how the normal support items do, where if you're near your allies and you're getting assists, and you'll get some heals for that, you'll get some gold for that, so it works very similarly to what you're used to right now, what you typically would build on your Noxes and your E-sets and whatever else is going in the support role right now. So it'll feel very
Finally,
familiar,
supports
very
get
at
something,
home.
just wishes
And,
on the
really
support
the only
class.
thing that's
It's
new
okay,
is that,
Guardians are going to
the
have a
big
real
change to
fun
how you
time with the
scale
other
over
one.
time, which honestly has felt so natural and so cool to be able to feel that change over time. Like, yes, I do start and have that advantage as a Fenrir or an E-set with my nice early pressure, but I don't really sacrifice that late game anymore to where I am super, super squishy until I buy Lonos. Well, now I already have it.
Exactly. And these passives, both for protectors and fighters, the starter versions, those are just established passives that we felt like were successful and good, that there's enough going on with this item already. We don't need to have to learn a whole new way to farm. as a support. So this is really just taking Sentinel's passive, which is very straightforward, easy to understand, and combining it with this mask.
Oh, it sure does have upgrades, ammo.
Upgrade.
Yeah.
It sure
Lono's
does.
The fun part.
This is the fun part. Yeah, this is the fun part.
This is the new stuff, where the new
Yes.
stuff comes in.
That's
talking to
right.
you about this new passive that's going to be adding cowardice.
Yeah, so the idea behind these upgrades, first of all, these starter items, they only have one upgrade. So they are different in that way because, they're masks and they break rules and they're allowed. The way that, we just discussed all the problems in the early to mid game with masks. But in the late game, if you're building the way that Lonos wants you to, you don't even need the damage reduction, damage dealt reduction, because you're not going to be dealing any damage anyways, because you built full tank in order to leverage your item, your mask that you built. So the idea here is that because these are level gated and that you can't upgrade them right away, we can make sure that you're checking the boxes that you should be checking when building these items. And if you build the way that the mask wants you to, you get to cleanse your debuff. So for Lonos, it's cowardice and bravery are the two stack mechanics. So you get a bunch of, you'll notice that there's no damage taken reduction or damage dealt reduction on the base stats. It's all handled on this passive. And if you build enough protections, every time you build enough, you remove a stack of cowardice and you gain a stack of bravery. And all of your damage dealt reduction is on cowardice. So if you have enough protections from your items, aka you've built full tank, which is what you need to do in order to remove all of the stacks, then you get to earn your base damage back. Because in level 15, 17, 19, 20, having an E-set that's built no power deal base damage.
How crazy are we on the craziness scale so far? We've hit up most of the craziness. The masks are the really big one. The masks are a really big one. Because there's no way to tell the impact of this.
We're watching you. You got to do it the right way. This way we can make sure that
there's just no way to know if
a little hybrid and all of a sudden
flipping hunt or assassins are going to be the best supports now. You
have to full commit to I am building pure tank. In that way, I can actually earn back my base damage.
Yeah, when Agros is full
combined with the earrings that break all the rules.
You've got to have a full defensive build for this to completely remove your cowardice. So make sure you're keeping that in mind if you are picking up Lonos.
The balancing is going to be very hard.
Item or two in there, you Chronos pending abusers, but remember, you will have a stack of cowardice if that happens.
And you can do that. You'll just keep a stack of cowardice and you'll decrease your output, but you'll still gain some of your mitigation.
There's a lot of stuff in this patch that's going to be very hard to balance.
That's going to have to be a trade-off that you're willing to make.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's very simple for players of all skill levels. Build the way that you feel like you should. If you want to build tank mage, build tank mage, and you'll get rewarded for it.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about the other mask, Fighter's Mask.
Yeah.
Only purchasable by Warriors and Guardians. Of course,
now for the flip side.
Like we talked about earlier, going to be smoothing out that curve of being tanky or being squishier while dealing more damage. But this item passive is actually going to grant you some MP5 and also grant you true damage from your abilities to minions.
Yeah, this is just the sands of, just like Protectors was Sentinel's gift, making sure that we just have a clean, easy to understand, successful passive that's already proven. This is Sands of Time brought over. This is the type of passive that you want on a warrior that's trying to lane.
Mask be a problem at all? No.
A guardian that's trying to lane as a damage dealer.
You ever seen a full damage Sylvanas mid one-shot a team?
This way you actually get to compete.
Cool. All right, well, let's talk about the upgrade, Rhonda's Mask. This one is going to have a new passive.
Yeah.
Another spicy one, but kind of in line with what we did with Lono's Mask.
Exactly. It's a lot of words that all say, do what you're supposed to, and it'll feel really good. Because it's the exact same thing, as someone who has played way too many Rangda's arena games.
Yeah, get more damage. You do more damage, then you take more damage.
And if I'm full damage Arthur, which I am in this scenario, I'm getting one shot by everything, no matter, this damage increase just makes it impossible to feel good with the build. A full damage Sun Wukong, 6 items, pure maces, Heartseeker, the whole 9 yards. If you cracken him, he dies. But with the damage increase on Rangda's as it was, if you basic attacked him, he lost a third of his HP. And it just made that risk reward not really feel like it was there. With Rangda's, again, if you build enough damage, you build enough power from your items, you will cleanse your debuff of damage taken increase. So If you build enough power, you will increase your damage dealt, and you'll get a little bit of extra movement speed to help you with your survivability, and you'll earn your base defenses back. And that sounds a little bit scarier, I imagine, to the majority of our player base. But the Rangda's theme is, I one-shot you, you one-shot me.
Right.
You will one-shot them. As a backliner.
Like, and confirm.
Yeah. Lermy literally.
Kabrakan is going to literally ruin your life.
I was like 20%.
You're out of there. Yeah.
Like I was like,
going to ruin your life.
Soft mid versus chalk mid. It was a great time.
Shout out F. Yeah. It was so much fun. And it just felt so much more smooth and natural because right as you're getting to level 20, you're like, man, I'm doing a lot of damage, but I'm taking so much extra damage. It's really hard to play in these team fights. Then you get Rangdas. Right. As long as you build enough power, you get your base defense back. And so you're still taking a lot of damage from damage classes, but like tanks can't solo you for free anymore. Fire Giant and Gold Fury aren't gonna like insta-kill you because you're taking 15% extra damage. You won't die to 2 tower shots. I think that this will feel a lot better.
And again, higher. It is
in that example, I was playing chalk.
Keep in mind, they are starter items.
Because got to go fast.
So if you do it like in the jungle,
I still had a
you don't have like a Bumba's dagger.
From that, because
they
I had
are
5
starter items.
And not 6. And I was like, crap, all right, I'll sell my regrowth. That's what I got to do.
And it felt very fair too. Like we were trading back and forth. It was not one-sided at all. Like
that was a bloodbath.
I felt as a normal mage that I could still compete with that. Like it just makes more things viable, which I think is really, really cool to see. I mean, especially big shots
There's going to be some crazy shifts in viability.
This is just another way for more people to go and try that.
Crazy shifts.
Wukong mid coming to a game near you, man. It is a blast.
Let's get it. Well, that wraps it up for kind of all the new stuff that's coming up. We talked about glyphs, new item tree, new starters in the mask. Let's talk about some traditional item balance and
run of the mill,
balance, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's kick it off and kind of quickly go through Brawler's Beat Stick. I cannot talk today. Divine Ruin and Toxic Blade, all getting a decreased anti-heal debuff duration from 6 to 5 seconds, calling back to that Brawling change from the top of the show.
Exactly. We talked about it at the very beginning of the show. This just makes sure that you're only being anti-healed by an anti-heal item or the Brawling debuff. It should feel much more fair.
All sorts of weird builds, man.
Right, next up. Bumba's Hammer going to be seeing a shift. There's a lot of text on here. I figure I will defer to Aggro here.
It's a veteran move.
A little bit about what's happening with Bumba's Hammer.
That's a savvy move by you there, Isaiah. So Bumba's Hammer, I mean, if you've been playing Smite recently, you've seen how strong
everywhere
this is, and how many different gods and classes and roles and builds will skip their starter item just to get to Bumba's Hammer later on.
Exactly.
We noticed that as well, and especially with things like Sphinx's Bauble and this cooldown, increase. We were very wary of how strong the cooldown reduction can be on Bumba's Hammer.
Yeah.
And we wanted to just give it a little bit of a shift. So it's keeping its identity. It's still going to be cooldown based. It's still going to give you procs in between every single ability if you use it. But we're just removing a little bit of its strengths for the tanky characters in particular, because we've also seen how popular the Warrior Jungle has been at the SPL level. We don't think that this is going to entirely address that problem, but we think it's kind of step one in that direction. So its passive, or its stats, are getting changed. It was 300 health, 200 mana, 20% CDR. Stats that are good for Warrior Junglers.
Right.
It is gaining power, so it's gaining 50 physical power and 70 magical power. This is going to help everybody who's building it, obviously, but in particular, full damage builds are going to be able to utilize that a little bit better. It still has a little bit of health, and it's going to 10% CDR instead of that
Praise
full 20%.
The bauble.
But the real change is in the passive. So the passive was giving you 80 true damage, a second off of all of your active cooldowns, and a 5% max HP heal. We're changing that heal to be flat so that it's still good. 120 health is about where 5% of an assassin's HP was, but for warriors, it's going to be significantly worse than it used to be. And we're changing the reduction on the cooldowns to only affect non-ultimate abilities. So, these abuse cases where you could use your ultimate to start a fight, go into the jungle, Bumba's proc a couple camps, come back.
Honestly, an argument that it's like better.
Is it fun for you? Yes. Is it fun for them? Not really.
For like assassins.
And so we just felt like this was important with how much more CDR is going to be potentially with Sphinx's Bauble and things like that. That we take some time to address it. We still expect Bumba's Hammer to be pretty good, but hopefully a little bit less appealing to the broad majority of every class in the game, and more to junglers who can use it well.
Exactly. Cool. Well, let's move right along and talk about Amulet of the Stronghold. Going to be increasing the conversion rate of the passive from 10% to 15%.
Yeah, so we remember you, Glyphs from 9.1. We're not going to forget about you anytime soon. So we have been noticing that some of the Heart Ward glyphs have been kind of left in the dirt a little bit, and we don't want that to happen. We love these passives, and we think that they can be a lot of fun. But, you know, maybe fitting Heart Ward into your build is a little bit difficult nowadays. This should maybe give you a little bit more of an incentive to go for it, especially because this conversion
This is a decent
rate
incentive for sure.
Yeah. All right, and talking about the other glyph for Heart Ward, Amulet of Silence, going to be reducing the internal cooldown of the silence from 45 seconds to 30 seconds.
Yeah, just like Lermy said, wanted to give Amulet a little bit of a boost. That's one of the lesser purchase glyphs, so we wanted to just
I don't know a lot of this like
bump that up a little
intricate
bit. I feel like Silence is,
type stuff.
Amulet of Silence is very,
I
very
only do
strong.
like the big overhead
You got to kind of
changes.
know how to use it. I think that having it up more often, it's a free CC that you get to add into your kit. Never bad. So yeah, I think Silence is going to be a lot more attractive after this.
I agree.
Well, speaking of supports and talking about Heart Ward Amulet, let's talk about support starter
this is
items.
so cool.
This is a good change here. All support starter items can now be upgraded at level 15. Talk to me a little bit about what we've been seeing in support and why we decided to make the change.
Yeah, so we've been, keeping a close eye at all levels of play, right? But especially when it comes to, when players come to us and say, well, I'm so much farther behind than the rest of my team as a support. I don't really even get to my upgrades a lot of the time in some of these games. So we want you guys to feel like you still can get to that point.
They are so far behind.
Even though you still have that little bit of restriction of, yes, I am the support. Yes, I will be taking some XP and gold losses because I need to split with people. Now it's going to be a little bit easier for you to get to that point and, possibly even snowball that even further, with someone like Sentinel's Boon that can, give you a lot of extra gold. Playing around those has been so much better now that you can get it a little bit earlier. And that also ties back into our Conquest change a little bit earlier with that extra XP for the person furthest behind, which typically is the support.
Right, yeah, I think that you're going to see a lot of support-focused buffs.
If it's not the support, you're probably losing the game.
And that's, obviously we see all the noise on Twitter, but the most important thing is that it's backed up by our stats at the same time. It's always a balance of community perception and what the players are feeling versus data at the same time. And this is an instance where those two things came together pretty cleanly. And so that's why you're going to see a lot of shifts towards buffing supports in that direction. I swear it's not because of all the propaganda. Do not think the propaganda works. It's only because you got lucky this time, right? Propagandists. I swear. But yeah, the support starters in general, we just saw a lot of games ending where supports are level 15, 16. One of the most fun things you can do is play with these brand new support upgrades in Season 9.
They're so good. Yeah.
Right, we want everybody to get a chance to do that.
Awesome. Well,
supports only need 4 item slots. The other 2 are just for show.
Sentinel's Gift, going to be increasing the bonus gold on that.
Yep, you're just falling behind a little bit in comparison to Benevolence, pickup rate and win rate and all that kind of stuff. So just putting a little bit of extra gold in particular on Sentinels, and then again on the upgrade that we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
In talking to support players, the gold difference was really a big key difference between Sentinels and Benevolence, and why Benevolence Compassion was more impactful than Sentinels in any of those upgrades. So trying to bring those a little bit more in line.
Yeah. And then Sentinel's Embrace, we're going to be adding 6 gold per 5 seconds to the item.
Yep, just to keep it in line with Compassion, which also has some GP5.
That's actually really nice,
Let's talk about
especially with the level 15 change too.
Increasing the relic cooldown reduction from 30 seconds to 40 seconds.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's a thick one.
we introduced new relic upgrades this year in Season 9, and so we figured that there were all these options. It was going to be a little bit scary for people to buy a relic dagger every game and get all those new options, but now people have had a little bit more time to get used to those options. We think that it's finally time for relic dagger to come back, and we feel like this is a really great option for supports who do want to upgrade their relics early, get those amazing effects, whether it's your fortifying shell or your bracers or really any of them. I mean, they're all so amazing.
Pretty sure,
being able to really
I'm pretty sure this is a revert. And the last time it was 40 seconds, it got nerfed because people were like, oh, there's too many actives being used.
Who doesn't love to
love it.
abuse? I mean, it's so much fun. And the big thing is that for supports, they are investing more gold in their relics than other classes are.
Yeah,
and they have less gold to work with already. So you kind of get double dipped in that instance. Relic Dagger means that your investment in those relics actually gets to pay off a little bit more frequently.
All right, moving right along to Reticle Plate Helm. We're going to be increasing the minion buff that gives you health and attack speed to the minions. We're going to be increasing that by 5%.
Yeah, going from 20% to 25%.
Okay,
with the changes to towers in particular in 9.5 and beyond. this item's identity
reasonable,
of
nothing
it's
wrong
going to
there.
help us siege kind of lost a little bit of that because towers are just
When you see a
hitting a little
5%
bit harder
change on an
and
item
it's just
right
a little
now,
bit harder to
after
siege right now
they
in general.
introduce like
So we
breaking
think
the
that
cooldown
giving it
cap,
a small buff in this direction
seems
is
pretty
gonna help it
underwhelming.
maintain its identity in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Mail of Renewal, going to be increasing the physical and magical protections from 20 to 30.
Dang, it's been a long time since we've seen this
I
item,
know,
but
right?
I
I know.
swear to you guys, when I pick it up, I feel so good every
Yeah.
single time, and I'm giving my team a heal, a little Faba, a little
Yeah.
Faba
Hey, there
action,
you
you
go.
know, maybe.
Oh.
Ooh, a little
Ooh.
synergy there, all right. But,
Theory crafting already.
but yeah, this
There
item
are no
has
stat
been
caps
under the
and
radar for a
buffs,
long
you say.
time. I think it is kind of, an item that is a little difficult to really see the effects of. So we want to make sure that if you do go for this item, you're feeling a little bit better about it because typically these glowing emerald trees, they're focused a little bit more on health. And so we wanted to make sure that, yes, you're getting your health, but you're not giving up too much protections for it either.
Yeah. All right, the Sledge. Love the name of that.
The
It's going to be
Sledge.
increasing the CCR from 20% to 30%.
Wow.
Yeah, just kind of
That's a
talking about
lot of
Tyrannical
CCR.
Plate Helm's identity and kind of what it does. Sledge is one of those items that feels like it's lost its identity a little bit.
a lot.
And now when you're thinking like, when is Sledge the correct pickup for me as a
Right.
player? When you see that they have a lot of hard crowd control on the other side, having Sledge be, this is the item that I want. This is what, as a warrior, I want in order to combat that hard CC that still gives me some offensive stats, still gives me some defensive stats. I think that leaning into this as the CCR as the identity of this item is something that we don't have very many of.
Right,
There aren't
yeah.
many
That's
items
what I'm
that
saying, man.
you
That's
look
a
at
lot
hard
of
CC
CCR.
composition, you're like, oh, this is going to be really good. It's really like Spirit
That
Realm,
lie.
and that's kind of it. Now, between Magi Shelter and the Sledge, I think that you're going to have a few more options there.
Definitely. All right, Shield of Regrowth. Now going to be providing some power in addition to that movement speed.
Yeah, buddy.
On the buff.
Yes. So this is another
Don't
fun one
buff Shield of
because,
Regrowth.
again, the Emerald Tree
I
is
don't
kinda
need more
seeing a
people
little
in my
bit
chat
of
spamming
lapse
buy
in
Shield of
pickups,
Regrowth
except
every
for, like,
game.
Thebes, because Thebes
I don't
is just
need
generically
that.
Good, right? It's good on everyone. But Shield of Regrowth has a lot of potential to do really cool things with that passive. I mean, you pop the heal, and then you go in, and now when you go in, you're going to be a
Shield
little
of
bit stronger. So I'm thinking your Guan
please.
Yus, your Amaterasu, any of those characters, Hercules.
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 Yes,
You're
yeah.
going to be having a good time when you're going in now.
Yeah, a lot of the gods that
Perhaps
use
you should
regrowth
buy
have not been
regrowth,
very
though.
good recently.
Yeah.
Baron kind of being one of the few exceptions to that. And regrowth is such a fun effect
Yeah.
that it feels good to put a little bit more power into it. We didn't want to increase its survivability or anything like that because it already gives
already
you,
does that.
yeah, you're healing and you're getting faster. But now you can use it a little bit more offensively at the same time. Which,
Happy Herc noises.
I will be zooming around with Hercules.
I'd love to zoom.
Very short.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, Pythagorean's piece. We're going to be shuffling some things around here. We're going to be removing the 10% magical pen, adding 10% CDR, and going to be increasing the health by 50.
Yeah, this is really a revert to how
is.
Pythag's piece used to be before our
Yep.
magical penetration changes. And when those changes were made, we needed a certain amount of density of items in order to get that magical penetration. But with the pickup rate for Pythags and how frequently we get the feedback that support players really miss having this be a nice flex option if they're getting a little bit further ahead, they can afford to just get a little bit of health.
I thought you
and
said
then
the
give
big
this
stuff
aura
was
of
over.
Power and lifesteal
It's
to
all
their team.
comparatively. We've
That
still
felt
got
very
some
fun.
interesting
And so
stuff
this
left.
is something that I know that a lot of support players are going to be very excited about. I'm excited about it because now they can give me some power
Like
and some
diminishing
lifesteal to help me out.
returns.
And just increasing the health along the way as well. So we think
Yeah.
that this is an item that this is going. I would be very surprised if this item doesn't jump up in the purchase rate like significantly.
Yeah, this is a massive
I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of Pythag's piece for sure.
Me too.
All right, Staff of Mirden up next. Going to be seeing a shift.
Yeah.
Old passive gone, new
yeah.
passive in.
Yes.
Talk to me about what's happening with Staff of Mirden.
So with Sphinx's Bauble, that gave us 2 items that we had to deal with that kind of changed the way that the cooldown cap worked. And so we felt like that Sphinx's Bauble might have been just the better way to really interact with that cooldown cap. So what we decided to do was not really change how Mirden works, but change the stat that it gives you. So instead of giving you extra cooldown, you're now getting extra power. It's interacting in the same exact
Yep.
way, where now you're getting extra power for several seconds after you ultimate, and it decreases over time until you get back to your normal 100% power.
Yeah,
That's a lot
Isaiah,
of
I'm gonna
power,
admit something
though.
to you,
Uh-oh.
and only to you
Okay.
on this patch notes.
Wait,
I have not said this. No, let me earmuffs. Chat, you too. I've been having to nerf Zeus since day one that I got on this team. You know how many Zeus nerfs I've written? Like 3.
I am so sorry.
A lot. I needed something for my homie.
Oh, there you go. So this is an
the
aggro
one.
special.
This is it. I'm kidding before there's a Reddit post about how the designers are just buffing their favorite gods. No, I think Mirden it's an item that we think was real, it has gone through a lot of
Aggro has
different
been
iterations
laying
now
propaganda
and has
getting
always been
through.
very unique and
It's
fun when
getting
you get to
through.
use it, but its effects have always been really hard to min-max and really understand what the right time is to buy it and then use it and then abuse it the best way. This is much more straightforward. If you're a god that likes to lead with your ultimate first, Mirrodin's going to be good
There you go.
on you. And it's very simple in that way. It, like Lermy said, it kind of makes way for a cleaner iteration of how to mess with the CDR cap and Sphinx's Bauble. And
At
it's
least
just
you won't
been
have to
really,
deal
really
me
smooth and easy
doing
to understand
15
and use.
portals
So
in a
I
row
think
on
the players
Janus.
are
No,
gonna
of course
really
you will.
like
I'm going to have
This item's
60%
good.
CDR.
item
You
is good.
goofball.
It's very good.
Plus my Spear of Desolation.
Let's talk about Celestial Legion Helm. We're going to be adding a 4% crit damage reduction per stack.
Yeah.
And the item stacks 5 times, so that's max 20%.
Correct, yeah. So this kind of came through a couple of different iterations. We've heard the community request that they want more anti-crit in the game. Spectral Armor currently the only thing that reduces
That's a
critical
good
damage
change.
in particular. Now Celestial is joining those ranks. We are wary of adding too much that is stackable, because if a hunter is going to invest in crit, as good as it may feel for them and as hard as it may feel to play against, it is still an investment.
Right.
And hunters are a necessary part of the Smite ecosystem to end the game.
Yeah.
That's their job. But with Celestial, we felt like this was a really good place to put it because there's healthy counterplay with how to get around it. 20% is only when it's fully stacked, and remember that you lose a stack each time you take any physical damage from any god source. So if I'm a hunter and I see that the enemy mage or the enemy support has got Celestial, if my assassin hits them with one ability, or I hit them with one ability that has nothing to do with crit, already 4% taken off. Each time, 4%. So their crit reduction drops with each auto. So I'm interested to see how the community likes this. We think
it's not a bad idea.
this is a way that even if supports end up buying this or Guardians end up buying this in conjunction with Spectral Armor, that will be strong for the first few autos, but we'll get to the default Spectral point fairly quickly. And for those mid laners, if you're playing up against a Mercury, bunch of crit assassins, or in a crit hunter, buying this means that you won't get insta-bursted with the first one, but that you aren't going to be too tanky throughout the whole game, because we've seen our problems with Celestial there when that item is too stat efficient in the mid
like
in
it.
particular. So I'm excited about this one. I really think that I really think that it's going to make a difference and have its niche. And
I don't know
hopefully
for
won't be too
sure.
overbearing.
Awesome. Well, I think
Change
that wraps it
anything
up
too
for
much, but
items,
it's
we've
interesting.
got some relics on the list. Oh,
Yeah.
never mind.
This is
I
good.
lied. I see one item at the end of the list. But
true.
let's talk about relics first before we get to it, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Bracer of Illumination. We're going to be increasing the buff duration.
Yeah, so just as a quick overview, we have been keeping really close eyes on what relic upgrades have been purchased throughout the year. And so this next couple of items are going to be the ones that we really haven't seen very much at all. People have dabbled with it, and we've seen posts on Reddit, on Twitter, wherever it might be. These items are a little underpowered. We recognize that. We see that in our stats as well. So
Everybody,
to start us off
I'm gonna
with
buy
Bracer of
beads, I'm gonna buy
Illumination.
Aegis, I'm gonna buy Blink.
surprised this one hasn't seen much more pickup, but
There we
we're
go.
trying to give it a little bit of differentiation between that and Brilliance. And so what is going to be the difference here, other than Roving Ward, is that extra buff duration. So you're going to be having it for 12 seconds now instead of 8 seconds.
Yeah, Brilliance, stronger buff, shorter duration. Illumination, vision control. Weaker buff, longer duration.
Exactly.
Just kind of splitting those up a little bit.
Cool. All right, Drowned Ankh next up. We're going to be increasing the miasma damage from 2% of current HP to 4%.
Ooh.
Yeah, we've seen the memes about Drowned Ankh
Interesting.
and how apparently everyone on the battleground can swim because they don't have to worry about this one too much. So just mess around and double it. Just feeling like
Okay.
there's,
Okay.
especially with the increased itemization.
That could be
Feyblast,
something.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot more healers trying that one out. Want to make sure that there
be
are
something.
enough counterplay options. The other Ankh has been very, very strong and very, very effective in what it does, but if you want to punish those healer compositions that have to group, the Drowned Ankh isn't great against mobile healing,
Right.
because they're not going to spawn those pools, but gods like Ra that force everyone to group up, Drowned Ankh can be very, very
Hades.
effective. And
I
remember
hate that. Yeah.
these pools can stack. If two people are on top of one another and they're both Ankhed and they both heal, they get a double pool right there. All of a sudden, players taking 8% of
damage.
current health. Like,
damage.
it'll add up quickly. So I think that this is going to feel much better and will be much more noticeable.
I think that's interesting.
All right, next up, Cloak of the Avatar. Going to be increasing the knockback strength by 33%.
Yes, and so this is a little bit of a weird one, right? Because what is 33%?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to quantify, at least in a way that makes sense to everyone. But just think of it like any time that you walk up to someone, they are going 33% higher and 33% farther. So they're just getting pushed longer, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More
weird buff,
space,
but okay.
you know, your personal space bubble has gotten a little bigger with this change for Cloak of the Avatar. So leading into its strength of disengaging players you don't want around you.
Yeah.
A little weird, but all
Next
right.
up on the list, Chaotic Beads. We're going to be changing the damage from magical damage to true damage, but decreasing the percent just a little bit.
Yeah, Chaotic Beads was one that right away, I think it was PTS that got nerfed at the beginning of Season 9.
did.
And it definitely was deserving of that. You know, stacking, if you Hunbat's Fear No Evil'd somebody, you
dead.
were like one-shotting yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a great time. But we've
That
introduced some
wasn't a great
rules in order to
time.
prevent that, so you can only get hit by this twice, I think, off of the same
Yes, twice.
CC. So we don't have to worry about that anymore. And I also think that an effect like this that is very scary on paper, that just adding damage for hitting your stuff, you know, we've seen that has caused problems before, but I think that
Guys.
with half of a year under our player base's belt, you're going to be able to play around to Chaotic Beads much better than you were 9-1, just as everyone would, you know, just more time against it. So upping this item's strength at this point feels pretty appropriate in our minds because we think that players are more used to this effect, are going to be on the lookout for it a little bit
Yeah, that's
more.
fine.
And we've also insulated ourselves from those break cases that made it feel so strong at the very beginning.
Exactly.
So I think that this will make this a little bit better for
It's
those
fine.
frontliners that don't really mind as much about getting
Honestly, the cooldown beads are going to be even
All right,
more
next up,
important now
Emblem
because of the
Trimble's
60%
Terror.
potential
Going to be
cooldown.
decreasing the health threshold for Trimble, decreasing that 15%.
Yeah, so this item was not seen very much at all. You know, Trimble is a very interesting effect because it can make you miss your auto attacks, walk where you're not supposed to go. So we just felt like 30% was too big of a barrier to entry, so we're just going to slice that right in half. And, you know, Trimble is not the scariest CC in the world, so we feel like it will disrupt a team fight. It will not destroy a team fight.
Yeah.
It'll still be useful. It'll still
Yep.
be effective in screwing people up,
System
making sure there's some
overload in the
confusion
end.
going on.
Yeah, there's a
but
lot in
we are
this
pretty
patch that's
confident
gotta
that it's not
grasp
going
all
to
at once.
be crazy overpowered.
For sure.
Yep.
All right, next up, Sundering Blast. Got a quick bug fix, fixing an issue where an icon.
There's really
is not
no
using the
way
right
to
icon for
know
the item, but this
how-
one's easy. You get hit by this, you're just taking more damage.
How the
Take
game
more
is going to
damage.
change from this patch.
Sundering
It's one of
Siphon
those
was
big
really
ones.
popular, especially at the very beginning of Season
Just
9.
got to get your
It's-
hands on it.
It's a little, you know, it was different, it was unique, and players typically gravitate towards those effects. So it made sense, but as the season has gone on, the less and less Sundering Blast we've seen,
Right.
and that is indicative that it needs a little bit of a change. And we think that its AoE that it covers is already really big. You know, it's clear, it just sometimes you don't realize how much it's doing. We think with this buff, and remember you get 2 charges, so even though it's only 2.5%, if you're firing both charges, it's a 5% increase. It's pretty significant because that's 50%, you know, either way. So we think that just give it a little nudge, you know?
Yeah.
AoE, damage increase, and damage on fire is pretty strong.
Yeah.
And we want to be sure that that doesn't just completely take over.
Exactly.
All right, last
I don't
up
see a lot
on
of
the list
Sundering
for
anymore, so
Relics,
that's fine.
Thorns of Overgrowth. We're just going to be increasing the radius from 55 to 70 units.
That's fine.
Yeah, so typically with Thorns,
That's
you know,
fine.
we have not been seeing a lot of them overall, but we feel like this is definitely the weaker one. The other one is really good about getting your cooldown back up. So we feel like that filled up that niche really, really well. However, Overgrowth has kind of been a little bit more challenging to deal with because it's all about getting in the thick of things.
Yep.
But the problem is that 55 units is basically a basic attack.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if people are outside of basic attack range from you, you're not getting anything from that. So we want you to be able to chase down those people that are slightly outside of that range or really playing to the maximum distance that they can be. So increasing it to 70 is just giving you a little bit more leeway of who you can affect with this item
It'll
and
be
is making
fine.
it so that it's a little bit more interactive when you pop it.
It'll be fine.
All right. Like I said, we had one more item that was towards the tail end, but
Yeah,
it's just a quality of
we
life.
covered
You know? We're just updating Silver Branch Bow, letting in the item description, letting people know that attack speed is capped at 2.5.
Right, this is just to clarify to make sure that the players who are building Heavy Executioner aren't like, why am I not getting Silver Branch
Exactly.
passive? Attack speed cap is 2.5. It does, Heavy Executioner caps your attack speed, but it does not change your attack speed cap.
Yes.
I'm sure that made a total sense and did not confuse anybody.
All right, well, that wraps it up for items. Before we get into gods, Lermy, I'm going to pass it over to you. We've got some changes and some adjustments to diminishing returns and crowd control.
Yeah, so this is going to be a very, very big update. For those of you who are really ingrained into the inner workings and mechanics of Smite, you'll recognize the name Diminishing Returns. And so this basically is a system that helps to protect people who have been hit by multiple hard CCs back to back to back. And so how this works is that every time that you're hit with a hard CC, you get stacks of Diminishing Returns. And so we just want to make that very, very clear now. And we're doing that by putting an icon on your buff bar, which will have a timer on it. And additionally, we're changing how the DR stacks up over time as well. So the max stack count was previously at 2. We're changing that to 4. And each stack that you have, you gain CCR. And now instead of 40% per stack, you are getting 20% per stack. And so that basically means that while there are more stacks and you gain less per hard CC, we're doing a couple of changes a little bit further on that we'll talk about that will contribute more to why we've made that change. Another important thing to clarify is that previously it was possible to DR yourself. It no longer is possible to do that. So there is no way for you purposefully to pick a character that can apply this to yourself. So that's no longer on the table.
Yep. Yeah, the big thing that we wanted to do with this update was a few things. So, we messed with DR a little bit in 9.5, or was it 9.4? Times a construct, as you said earlier. We messed with it earlier this year. And we saw a lot of community discussion around how that impacted the game. And this is something that we've wanted to do for a long time, which is increase clarity around what diminishing returns is and what it does. And so being able to see it on your buff bar that, hey, I've got 2 stacks of DR, I've got 3 stacks of DR. We think that is going to open the minds. We are transcending the mortal realm for player knowledge for a lot of our players who didn't really understand how the system worked. The other thing we wanted to do was make it a little bit more clear and consistent, and we'll be going over that in a second.
Yes.
And the third thing
they're
is that
redoing the wording
there
on
are
this, which is
CCs
important.
that are just the best in the game.
Right.
Knockups, grabs, polymorphs. Those in particular are so good because, as our established players know, they apply DR stacks, but they do not respect them.
Yeah.
So there's a reason that we don't want them to respect them. A lot of these things are animation driven, very important to feel the right way. We don't want those to be affected by DR. But with moving the DR stack from 1 and 2, with 2 being the cap, to 4 being the cap, it allows us to make those CCs a little bit worse by applying extra stacks of DR. And we'll be going over that in a little bit.
Yes, so I do want to clarify one more time that the cap is still the same at 80% or 0.4 seconds as a minimum. It's whichever one is higher.
It applies 20 at a time.
So that is staying exactly the same. The duration is exactly the same at 15 seconds. You will just be able to see it now, and the amount of stacks has changed, and the amount per stack has changed. That is really the only thing about DR
now give you
specifically
2 stacks instead of 1.
But now let's talk about CC a little bit more. So we have gone through and made sure to clearly define what it means to be CC'd and what the various types of CC are. So, number 1, hard CC, and I'm going to read this because I want to make sure that I'm saying this exactly right.
Absolutely. This is all on patch notes too, by the way.
Yes, for sure. This is a very dense system, so
it is.
Believe me, if you need a second to go and read through this, then absolutely take your time to do that.
No
but
effects.
Hard CC is now defined as any crowd control that makes it impossible, that's the important word there, impossible, to do at least one of the following actions: basic attack, non-movement abilities, or movement inputs. And so any of these hard CCs will apply 1 stack of DR. And the other important thing to recognize is that these specific CCs are affected by DR. They do change their durations based on how many stacks you have.
Yes.
And so to kind of clarify with that definition, we have moved some CCs that were previously defined as soft to hard, and that single one is root. Root is going to be considered a hard CC now, and so that will then contribute to diminishing returns.
Yes, the big key here is, as you know, SPL watchers will know, and high-level players who've really dove into the game, roots have been an incredibly strong CC because of magic, they did not respect any DR.
Right.
They just did their own thing, and so no matter how many stacks of DR they had, if my root was said it was going to last 1 second, it was lasting 1 second, no matter what. And so it made these abilities, it contributed to these really long CC chains, and it really wasn't clear why.
Can't lie, you find the CC thing kind of confusing.
These routes
DR
to
is
now be
always
considered hard
confusing for
CC,
people.
like
Always.
everything else. Apply hard DR stacks and respect hard DR stacks is really important for clarity. This is going to heavily impact root-based characters because they have been getting away with
It won't
having
affect
their
Nox.
same
It
consideration
won't affect
for their
Nox.
whole
Nox is
entire
a
life.
channel.
Right, exactly. So we are aware of that. Some gods that are affected by these DR changes are getting buffs in this patch. Some are getting, or we're keeping an eye on and getting, we're probably going to get some buffs in later patches. But this is going to contribute heavily to feeling like you are chain CC'd less often, because I don't think players probably realize how often roots are contributing to that feeling.
Yes. And as Aggro said, we are keeping a really, really close eye on gods that are affected by that, and we're very interested to see how that changes it. But we're not done yet. We've got some more crowd control to talk about. And now we're actually creating a new classification of CC called True Hard CC. And so this is basically the stuff that Aggro was talking about before, the stuff that does not respect diminishing returns. So that includes... This is banishes, grabs, knockbacks, knock-ups, polymorphs, and pulls. Anything classified as that is now what's called a true hard CC. And so the difference here between regular hard CCs and true hard CCs is that true hard CCs will apply 2 stacks of DR because they do not respect it, they aren't changed by it, and so this really has a big impact on those particular ones.
Yeah, it really means that these CCs are good, and while crowd control is something that
in other words, remember how it was important to do your Baka stun and then the flop? Now it's really important to do it in that order.
Leveling up your game by realizing when you should use your CC in relation to your teammate's CC or your other CCs is a real eureka moment for a lot of players. And so we want to maintain that amount of skill expression. These CCs, these true hard CCs, are still going to be fantastic to end your chains with. We feel like that is core to their identity. But now, if you're
going to need a
with
spreadsheet or something because all you're hearing is CC,
than leading with a stun or a root or something along those lines. And we feel like this more properly evaluates how strong these true hard CCs are in comparison to regular hard CCs.
Exactly. And so finally at the end we have soft CCs, and so the biggest difference here is that it is not impossible to do any of the actions.
If I ASMR anymore in chat, nobody's going to have a soft CC in this house, that's for sure.
And so again, soft CCs do not respect or apply diminishing returns, and so they don't apply any stacks there. And so we also have a couple of CCs that were previously classified as hard CCs.
Bazinga!
They're going to get moved to be soft CCs, and those include Intoxicates and Trembles. So anyone with an Intoxicator or Tremble got a pretty big buff.
Yeah, did you know that if you blink Bacchus ulted someone on Smite today, you'd be drunk for 6 seconds?
I did not know that.
That's a 6-second Intoxicate.
That's kind of nuts.
It is now always 6 seconds. Because if you led with it, it always was, but if you knocked up ahead of time, if you stunned ahead of time, that would reduce its duration. Now it will be that amount forever. So, you know, we expect, just like root characters got a lot worse in a lot of instances, characters with Trembles and Intoxicates are probably going to get better. We're keeping an eye on those to make sure that no one falls too far out of line.
Yes, and one other important thing to clarify is that a single ability does not have a cap on the number of stacks it can apply. So, for instance, Kuzenbo Ultimate, he's going to be spinning around in circles, continuously knocking you up, so he will be applying 2 stacks every single time that you're getting knocked up. There is no cap on that. The only exception is for characters where their CC is entirely reliant on hitting 1 CC beforehand. So for instance, think about like on her Impale Stun. If you get stunned, you have to be knocked back. So what we've done is for the characters listed here, for on her's Impale, Aries is No Escape, Relics' Gravity Surge, Daji's Powwow, and Gilgamesh's Dropkick. Those specific stuns have received a change to them that basically increases them by the amount of percentage that they would have lost from that CCR, because you physically cannot get stunned by any of these characters without them applying extra stacks to you. And so that would mean that basically those numbers that we're showing there are no longer correct. And so it's very, very important for us for them to feel the same, especially for those combos. And that's why we've done that increase in that way.
Yeah, one of the things that's in patch notes as well is that we call them code-driven things. Anything code-driven was not applying DR.
I'm not doing the math for you guys on this one.
Think Hercules too. It's a knock. It's a knockout.
I'm not doing the math on it when it comes out to be the same numbers.
Now it will.
You
And
can
so
see a lot
that
of this not
change, and
working.
the
How
same
dare
goes
you.
for all of these. On her impale,
Smite
Aries no
works
escape,
perfect
Relics,
all
gravity
the
surge
time, and
without
high
having
res
stun
is
attached.
without fault in
Pow
all
wow, again
things.
with a stun attached.
Hashtag
Drop
Rhonda
kick.
fans.
These abilities, if it said 1 second on the duration of the stun or the CC, it would. Even though I on her pushed you, you should be getting DR stacks, it still lasted my 1 second. After this change, it would never last the duration that it said on your
Right,
tooltip.
yeah.
And we didn't feel like that achieved our goal, which was increased clarity. So these gods, the rule that we went with is any CC, any duration-based CC, so something that lasts a certain amount of time, that is conditional on you being successfully hit by a code-driven knockback or pull. And that's why this list is fairly short. There are gods that are still going to lose, Hercules is a good example. His 2 into 1 is going to be worse now, but we can't just increase the 1 because you don't need to hit
Exactly.
the 2.
Yes.
So that's where that delineation is. We understand that there's going to be a lot of fallout from this. Usually when there's this many massive changes.
I knew this
if you
change
go in
was
there and try
coming.
and get
I've
ahead
had
of
a
every
month
single
to
one,
prepare for it, and I feel like
some
I'm
gods
having
will
a
get
stroke.
overbuffed or overnerfed and all this kind of stuff, and it just doesn't
So
feel
I don't know
quite
how
authentic.
you guys are doing
There's no
out
better
there.
testers than the players,
community.
right?
Yep.
Exactly.
We can't simulate the amount of games that you guys will play in a day if we had a year.
Exactly.
So it's just release it out to the wilds. We're
We
ready
feel
for your
confident.
feedback. Yep.
Yeah. We've tested this a ton internally, and we feel very good about these changes. We
You've
personally
stopped
have
paying
experienced
attention,
a
yeah.
lot of these different changes coming to our roots specifically. I know there's been
Yep.
a lot of concern around, but believe me when I say this feels just like regular Smite for 90% of the time.
This was not the
And
important
that small
part. The whole
10% where it's
second
not,
half of
there's a
everything
very good
wasn't the
reason why it's
important
not.
part.
And you know why.
Yeah, and now you know why.
And now it's in front of you.
Exactly.
More clear, it's on your buff bar.
The important part was
I
the first
anticipate We're going
part.
to be making buffs and nerfs specifically centered because of these changes, but we feel like it's best to let the community feel
Yeah.
who needs those adjustments to be made.
Exactly.
All right, I know that was a lot to take in, but again,
Yes.
it's on patch notes if you want to read
Yes.
through and deep dive into all the changes to DR and CC.
I
But,
don't.
Let's talk about God, shall we?
Yeah,
I
some
don't
normal
want
balance
to.
and
Some normal balance. Let's
Back
talk
to
about
normal stuff.
Al Kwong first, and I'm going to pass it to you, Lermy.
Yeah, Lermy,
because
this
I
one's
love
for
Al
you.
Kwong.
Yes.
But for Dragon King's Sword, we're going to be decreasing the time it takes to gain a stack, and for Water Illusion, we're going to be increasing the magical power scaling.
Yeah, poor Al Kwong's been a little MIA for what feels like a very long time at least.
Maybe them. I hear about Al Kwong needing buffs every day, Lemmy.
Okay, well, let's see here. I do think that Al Kwong has been one of our lowest performing characters for a very long time. He's
Yeah.
a character that can be played in solo, but his role is in the jungle. And the problem is that he does not have a great early game. And when he gets to
Okay.
late game, sure, he feels
That's
great.
fine.
But he just doesn't
Not
have
that big of a deal.
really intense payoff that a lot of other characters do. So we feel like changing out Dragon King's Sword especially will be able to enable him to use these stacks very effectively and intentionally.
Yeah.
And with that lower cooldown, you are going to be able to play around it more frequently over time, which is the most important thing. And of course, using Water Illusion for damage is always a fun way to do it. So I think that getting those pop-off kills where you dash away and then you pop and then they die on the outside, I mean, that's always a good time.
That's what it's about.
All right, Cerberus up next.
Okay.
Spirit of Death
That's
is
fine.
going to be increasing the healing reduction applied, and then Paralyzing Spit, increasing the base damage on the ability.
Yeah, so Cerberus is a unique
More
case
spit.
where his stats indicated that he could use an adjustment, and he is adversely affected by these DR changes. His ultimate previously was not applying any DR. It's now max DR right off the rip. And so I know, like we said, we want the majority of these gods that are going to be affected to just see how they do, and we'll make adjustments.
I wonder if
Because of
they're
where
ever going to
Cerberus was
address the
before
fact
these changes, we felt like it was appropriate
that if
to give him a
Cerberus
little
and
bit of
Freya
love.
are in the same
And,
match,
it's not
he
centered
just
around his
smites
ultimate
the
in any way.
shit out of
The
her.
Paralyzing Spit, just getting a small revert, and again with healers getting a little bit of
We
extra
may never know.
oomph from their itemization, building in a little bit of counterplay there seemed
May never know.
All right, from Guardians to Hunters, let's talk about Cupid. Heart Bomb, we're going to be increasing the damage done to minions from that ability. And then Share the Love, going to be increasing the base heal per heart.
Yeah, so we've been seeing not very much Cupid.
Damage done to
He's kind of
minions on
lower end of the
Hardball.
tier
That's a
list, it
big
seems,
one.
From at least a community standpoint. So I think that his stats also indicated that he needed a little bit of a push, and so this will kind of help him in his laning phase a lot more. He'll be able to keep himself a little bit healthier. But really, a lot of Cupid's feedback is that when I get to the late game, those hearts are kind of just sitting there. So at least now they'll have a little bit of extra base heal, so you'll be able to keep up a little bit more when it comes to being able to pick them up. Skilled Cupid players will push them all against the wall so they can collect them all at once.
Actually a decent.
If you know how to do that, that's amazing. Great job. But
a decent little Cupid buff right there.
It's better now,
so
I recommend learning up on how to do that if you haven't done it yet. But yeah, he really needed it, honestly.
For sure.
Yeah.
He just wasn't able to keep up really in this crit meta of other hunters that have all these attack speed stims and have this really pop-off late game style. Cupid has more of a team fighting style, which is, you know, great. He pops speeds really easily, but afterwards he's just kind of a baby on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So I mean, someone's got to come pick up their kid, you know.
All right, moving right along. We got Discordia up next. Strife going to be seeing a damage
Where's
buff
Gabe?
and then erratic behavior.
Here you go,
decreasing
Gabe.
The cooldown.
Yeah, Discordia is one of those gods that always feels pretty good. It's never like the best mage, never the worst mage. Discordia is just like
It's
good.
his time to shine.
But post the time to kill update in 9.5, Discordia was one of those characters that was killing you by exactly your health bar.
Right.
You know, she wasn't overkilling you by a ton.
Gabe
and
is
so when everyone gets a little tankier,
exploding right now.
she goes from nice,
It's
I got the
finally
kill by
time.
50 health to they're getting away from
Right.
me with 200 health. So just giving her a small damage increase and then erratic behavior, kind of leaning into that identity of hers. And you know, that's the most fun part of her loop, in my opinion, is sitting in the cloud and getting to spam all your buttons. So just making sure you get to do that slightly more frequently.
Cool. All right, another mage up next. Hera going to be seeing a buff to commanding presence, going to be increasing the cooldown reduction on Argus, and then also increasing the cooldown reduction on commanding presence.
Yeah, so this is going to be for all of those really active, in-your-face Hera players. If you're spamming her passive, making sure to get your basic attacks in there, damaging enemies
Kinda
as much
feel
as
like
possible, you'll be getting Argus up a
Argus
bunch
with a
more often. That's also gonna be
60%
helping with
cooldown
commanding
is
presence, which will
already a
keep you safe in
problem.
the middle of fights. It'll help you get out
So-
of fights or into fights. You know, you'll feel a
Not
little
to
bit better
mention her
about using your
Polynomicon has
shield to
no,
go
or
in,
probably her
versus
Polyproc
needing it to run away, because if
is
you
a
just keep
true
hitting them, you'll
hard
get back right away.
CC.
There you go. All right,
60%
Hercules is up
CDR,
next.
I don't
Really
know.
affected by those DR CC changes, so
Yes.
he's going to be seeing some buffs here. Driving Strike, we're going to be decreasing the cooldown, and then Earthbreaker going to be decreasing the cooldown on that as well.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this is a god that we can't give that treatment to, but will feel the effects of this DR change very heavily. And again, stats indicated that he could use it anyways, and getting hit in that way feels like those are a little bit more appropriate than others. And between these changes
And the shield of regrowth buff.
I feel like Hercules is going to be feeling a lot better.
I was
been a very
actually-
hard god.
I
His
was
stats are
actually
never very
memeing.
impressive, even when he feels like he's very oppressive.
He said it for real.
But our Hercules players out there, I mean, having your 2 up is so
funny.
much of your threat on the battlefield that just having it up slightly more often is a
Yeah.
big deal.
Cool. All right, next up, Hoonbats. Overhand Smash. Hoonbats is now knock up and knockback.
They did it finally.
Getting the base damage on the ability.
Yeah, so this ability was definitely a challenge to balance, in our opinion at least, because, you know, there is the visual of Hunbat's leaps into the air and then smacks back down, so he's not even on the ground. Why is he getting knocked up? Why is he getting knocked back? So we have decided that he's in a spot now where he could use it. His early clear could also use a little bit of help because he is a character that really comes on at that level 5 mark and really in the mid game. And, you know, he doesn't really fall off in the late game per se, but he could use just that little bit of oomph in the right direction, and this is really what it's going to be. And so Hunbat's players will be feeling a lot nicer when they're charging up their overhand smash.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was an Olympian suggestion. I mean, we've seen this suggestion a million times
yeah.
from
Oh,
Bats,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
it just goes to show that, you know, it might not have been the right time before, but
We always
these
keep those
things,
suggestions in
yeah,
our
exactly.
back
Like
pocket.
if it's always good to hear those. So I believe it was an Olympian suggestion. Shout out to the Olympians; they've been doing a great job.
Definitely.
Yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
that people are going to be really excited to play some Hunbats.
Yeah. All right, next up we got Nike. Rend, we're going to be decreasing the cooldown, and then Barrier Formation, increasing the damage.
Yeah, I think that Nike, when the Hunters were as dominant as they were
Okay.
these last few patches, we've seen them
Okay.
come back to earth a little
Pretty
bit.
good buff,
but
actually, for
how
the-
many Hunters?
for
We were
the
seeing
clear.
3 Hunters a match.
Yeah.
And Nike has an ability that expressly destroys Hunters,
Yeah.
right? Barrier Formation negates basic attack damage from a range. And we didn't see any of it.
Right.
Probably indicative that she's not doing so well. So just a little bit, you know, we know that ability in particular, the barrier formation is very strong in its displacement and its defensive effects, so we didn't want to put too much more strength in there.
Dumb.
But with the
I
minions
like
getting a little
it.
bit tankier, Rend was always one of those abilities that didn't clear super well all the time. Don't want to make it so that she's, you know, one-shotting everybody with Rend by increasing its damage too much. Felt like just giving her the option of scaling that down, as that is her primary clear ability anyways. You're going to be feeling that pretty early in the game.
For sure. All right, Pele up next. Pyroclast, going to be increasing the return damage on the projectile.
Yeah, this is another exciting one. We haven't seen much Pele nowadays,
Yeah,
but
I know.
one thing about Pele that we have had a discussion about, at least recently, is that you're throwing out the Pyroclast and you're not really caring about how it comes back to you. And the whole point of leveling up Pyroclast is to get those increased projectiles. So we felt like, well, okay, let's start making us care about it a little bit more, put a little bit more damage onto that guy, and then now we'll really start to see a lot more of that skill expression come out of the Pele players that just throw it out to throw it out, and the Pele players that play around the ability to get those projectiles coming back.
And remember, that you get a shard that comes back per rank. So at max rank, you get 5 shards coming back. 50 damage base is a substantial buff.
Oh yeah,
sure is.
In the mid to late game. It's going to help her clear a lot. It's going to help her lane clear even. You know, we've seen Pele solo and Pele mid in the past a little bit. That's what I love seeing that. So I'm hoping that it kind of pushes her in that direction a little bit. But even in the jungle, she's going to really feel that increased clear just a little bit. She kills people very well. Still.
Oh yeah.
That is a god that is not barely killing you.
Right. Yeah.
She's in there, and she's going to 1-for-1 basically every time as long as she hits her buttons. So she doesn't really need help in that direction, just more so in the clear department.
Right.
And Pyroclast does help in the fight, but more so focus on clear.
All right, moving right along to another jungler, Serket. Gonna be seeing some buffs here. Deathbane going to be increasing the base damage, and I believe that is a revert. And then Last Breath, increasing the damage mitigation.
Yeah, so Serket, I mean, I've been on this couch talking about her quite a bit. Between the DR changes that came right after her rework and then the time to kill changes.
It's got to be ironic if she just becomes a support again with Lono's mask after all their changes.
Anyways.
Oh,
so she's
that would
definitely
be
been struggling a little
so
bit.
funny.
We think that after the increased time to kill, Deathbane can afford to go back to its old base numbers, and it's still keeping all of its scaling buffs, so that ability is still going to hit very hard. And this is a god that we're still trying to nail down exactly where she is, but we have seen glimpses of her success. You know, we've seen SPL players play her.
You just motivated
in that
half
full
the
damage
chat
type
to
of role
do
pretty
so.
well. Hear Me on the Valkyries has been really impressive on that when he locks in particular.
Put that curse on me, Ricky
You know, I
Bobby.
think that Serket is still that very hard to execute with, nimble assassin. By giving her a little bit more damage on Deathbane and increasing that mitigation on Last Breath, I think that we have a chance to see her. And she might even go back to support a little bit with the new Lonos. You know, it's hard to say for sure, but I'm excited to see if Serket can compete a little bit better after this.
All right, moving right along. Aries, exciting one for him. Shackle, now going to deal 40% extra damage to jungle monsters.
Holy cow.
Yeah, lure me. I'll
by
kind of go
Alright,
over
then.
these next few. So these next 3 changes in particular are a new feature that we're able to do.
Let's talk about it,
Yeah, so previously we only had the capability to deal increased damage to gods or increased damage to minions. And minions meant all of them. Lane minions, jungle minions. Now we can break up that minion category and give you bonus damage to jungle minions
or lane
minions or both. And so what we think that this can do is really open up a lot of options. We went light with this, only 3 changes, but we think that if these are successful and our players really like them, that we can do this to make junglers better laners and laners better junglers. Only in spots where it makes sense. So for these first few, you'll notice that they are
They've been
all
working
getting
on
buffs
this
on
for
their
a
non-primary
while.
clear ability
A
because we thought that was
while
pretty
for the
important.
ability to separate
Junglers
those
that
two.
have one ability that can insta-clear a camp are great, but if they go to the next one and have to stand there for 10 seconds while their ability's coming back up, you're not really feeling like a good jungler. So they're on their non-primary clear abilities, and they're on gods that we feel like makes sense to put in the jungle. Either we've seen them there have success in the past, Aries is a good example of that, or their kits are assassin-like. You know, they make sense. They have gank tools. They have assassin-like playstyles if you build them that way. And I think there's a really exciting new direction that I hope that our players enjoy because I've got some spicy ideas on some stuff we could do. But you got to make sure that everyone's cool with it first. You know what I mean? Got to test the waters.
I do want to hop in there 1 second and clarify. Like, these are not the next up junglers, right?
No.
So it's not your Athenas, it's not your Hebos, it's not your Apollos. It's going to be the jungler that you would really think is possible to play, but just needs a little baby push to go in the right direction.
It'd be fun, it would make sense, but it's not quite good enough. And we don't think that these should be top of the meta junglers.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, we're not trying to define the meta with these types of changes. just adding a little bit more variety. Like we said with the masks. Yeah, exactly. I mean, our players clearly love doing different, unique things and finding these little windows. Just kind of facilitate.
Let me know who the other one is.
So with Aries in particular, we've seen him struggle to be a consistent pick in support, even in the counter pick opportunities.
Unless you're last, in which case you pick him anytime you want to win.
Searing Flash's 3 already does a great job at clearing camps. Needed just a little bit of help on those secondary camps. It's not going to one-shot the camp or anything like that. And it also helps his support because now he can go to his green a little bit more easily and things like that. So Aries, we felt fit the bill because he's struggled to find his identity in his default role. And we hope that this will increase his strength there a little bit, but also make it so that you can pick him and have a little bit of flex potential, potentially.
Cool. All right, next up, Danzaburo seeing almost the exact same change, but on his Alluring Spirits ability, 40% extra damage to jungle monsters.
Yeah, just like we said, this is a kit that, this is an assassin kit, you know, Hunter, in a really fun way that, you know, Danzaburo from day one has been this in-your-face, dive-oriented hunter, which is a really unique and fun play style. But have you felt the adrenaline rush of hopping in the rocket to gank someone that never sees you coming? I mean, that is the stuff. And so we really think that that can be his type, you know, that kit makes sense coming out of the jungle a little bit. His 1 already clears camp super well with the bounce. Bounce abilities always do. This just makes the 2, you know, you can clear a little bit. And this one in particular, I think, is super fun. Big fan of Danza Jungle.
All right, last up for these kind of changes here, the Morrigan. Deadly Aspect's going to be dealing 30% extra damage to jungle monsters.
Yeah, I think that the Morrigan magical assassin that's always been played in mid makes sense to have a magical assassin in the jungle a little bit. She needed a little bit less help than Aries or Danzaburo, so that's why her number is a little bit lower.
Interesting.
But it's really, again, there's a play style that makes sense to be in the jungle. And we know, by the way, that Aries, Danzaburo, and the Morrigan are going to get better in support, ADC, and mid because of these changes. You know, laners go in the jungle and clear, junglers go in the lane and clear. We are aware of that, but we think that's why we also picked gods that we felt like could afford to use a little bit of a buff in that way and not send them too far.
Yeah, Morrigan's mid-camp control just got real good.
You're playing stealthy,
just got
playing like an assassin.
good.
That's how you should be playing. If you're playing her like a traditional mage, you're probably not seeing a whole lot of success. Change your mindset, feel like an assassin, I'll bet you're going to see a lot more success.
Most definitely. All right, next up, we've got Chang'e. Going to be seeing a general change here, increasing some base
here
HP.
Comes healer changes.
Base HP per level.
Yeah, so these next couple are more so oriented towards laning styles or really specifically solo. And they're characters that have kind of struggled to find their niche. You know, they go back and forth between several roles. We've seen Chang'e in 3 roles. I mean, shout out DJ Purd from way back when in the jungle. But so Chang'e specifically is just getting a little bit more help when she needs to be in the middle of the lane, right? When she's clearing correctly, she's throwing her dances out when she's in the very middle of the enemy wave, which is not
like
a great
100
place
base
to be
HP,
by
man.
any means. So just giving her a little bit more HP will help her with that survivability. And so it is going to be base and then HP per level, which means that, you know, over time she will also get a little bit healthier.
Yeah, we do our base stats in kind of like archetypes. You know, we try and group similar god stats to other gods who do similar things. Chang'e plays like Zhonghui Hades. You know, she's a battle mage. She wants to be in the middle of the fight. Her base stats do not reflect that.
It's gonna be noticeable.
She's still below both of those.
For sure.
It's
especially in the ultra early, man.
It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to have Chang'e be higher than either of those big boys, but we feel like this more accurately depicts how you want to be playing Chang'e.
Cool. All right, next up, we've got another change, kind of gearing somebody more towards the lane here. We've got Thor, and Mjolnir's attunement is now going to, minions now take 100% damage from the return swing.
Yeah, for a long time, the return swing of Thor 1 deals double damage to gods and decreased damage to minions, like 80% is what it was. Thor has been struggling a little bit. We've seen how good he can be when his full combo is insta-killing people, and we think that he still can do that in the right instances. But his clear speed just isn't very good in the jungle or in the lane. With the increased tankiness on the minions in particular, post 9-5, we feel like this is a much safer time to go with a change like this. It removes some weirdness and wordiness from his ability description. It feels more natural, and it'll feel a lot better to play. Not just in solo, as Lermy mentioned, though I expect SOT is going to be ruining some reviews with it shortly. but also in the jungle, because now the
Yeah.
jungle camp is going to take full damage on the return swing. So
Not to mention
I'm
it's
excited about
clear
this
in the
one.
mid
Thor's
lane
gonna
at
get a
level
little bit of
2
love
will
for a
be
little bit,
huge.
And I think this is a really good way to do it without pushing his player damage to that, holy crap, I just got 60%ed by one
One
Thor
Thor
hammer.
hammer.
Yeah, sort of feeling.
All right, last up, we've got Zhang Kui. Going to be seeing a general change, increasing his base physical protections.
Yeah, so Zhang Kui is another one of those gods
Thick
that
boy.
he's in solo. Where does he belong? Nobody really knows.
I know you
So
can't
we
wait,
just wanna
Gabe.
make sure
I
that
know
if
you'd be
he's being
excited.
picked in
I told
solo,
you.
He's feeling a little bit better against those physical matchups. If you pick him into a warrior, he'll be doing a little bit better now, because before it was really, he's a mage. He is normally supposed to be, or rather not him specifically, but mages are against mages in mid. That's like the very typical baseline expectation. So he does, have decent magical protections, but when he's against a physical, if he were to be in solo, he just has a harder time with it. So now we want to make sure that he is feeling a little bit better against those physical opponents.
Yeah, Zhang Kui 11.2 is near the bottom of the mage class in terms of base stats for physical protections. And with what he does, where he's going to be fighting, in the lanes that he's going to be played in, and look at him.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
it just like doesn't make a lot of sense. So this felt appropriate. This does not put him near the
Wow.
top, because of course you have to take into consideration his passive.
He
giving
looks
him free
just
physical
like
protection.
Neith.
Exactly.
I've
So he is
seen
not
him
the-
cosplay.
Anywhere
Okay.
near the tankiest. I believe
So-
that Hades is like above 18. It doesn't seem like a lot, but we're
It
talking
adds up.
Yeah.
points of protection at level 1. This just felt like a logical change
Right.
for Zhang Kui. It fits the theming. It
Wait,
fits
that's
our
not
goals,
Neith?
and also he's struggled a little bit in that lane in particular, where he should be pretty strong.
All right, well, we hit Z, and normally that would mean that we would be done with balance, but
No.
you all thought wrong. We've got another exciting change that's coming in the mid-season update, which is the introduction of a new type of balance.
Yep.
Non-conquest balance.
This is important.
Leandro, talk to
You
me
guys
about
are
what
welcome for
non-conquest
this.
balance is going to mean going forward.
Yeah, this one I'm really pumped about,
Yeah.
because I think our players are going to be very excited about it. Historically, we have always, and will continue to, prioritize conquest with our balance.
Yeah.
It's our competitive mode. It's what the pro players play on. It's what the majority, it's the most MOBA-like. It makes sense. And that is our plan going forward. But when we're discussing what types of changes we want to make, we always have to keep in mind that a large portion of our player base does not like to play Conquest.
Right.
They only play Arena, or
Yep.
play Assault and Joust, or are Slash mains. And they are valuable players whose feedback needs to be heard as well. So, you've heard us say on these update shows and Twitch chats, on Reddit, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, is Opwash where we want him in competitive? Probably not, but my God, how many Assault
Right.
posts do you see each week on the Reddit about how strong Opwash is? By creating this new non-conquest balance system, we can separate those two things.
This is one of the
and
best
create
things they've
the
done
best
for the
experience for
Smite
all of our different
ecosystem in a
players
long
that we
time.
can. But let's clarify exactly
It's
what that
huge.
means from the
Right,
outset.
yeah.
So this will not be separated for each non-conquest mode, meaning Arena, Assault, Slash, whatever, all using the exact same. And it's very simple. If you are on a Conquest map, you are using Conquest Balance. That includes Conquest, Rank Conquest, any custom or match of the days on Conquest maps. If you are not on a Conquest map, you are using non-Conquest Balance.
Yep.
So, again, match of the days, Joust, Rank Joust, Duel, all of it. All going to be exactly the same.
Yep.
And these are not our typical sets of balance where it's, let's scroll let's scroll one back.
Plus 15 damage.
Rend,
Minus
Rend
10
cooldown
cooldown.
decrease from 14 seconds to 14, scaling down to 12.
It's not that.
It's not like that. It is blanket percentage increases or decreases across a god's entire kit.
Yep.
Because it is so overarching, with Conquest, we're trying to hit very specific bullet points. We can't do that for Arena, Assault, Joust, Slash, all that kind of stuff. So this balance is going to look a little bit different. We may, there are a healthy amount of changes here. We did go a little bit light because this is a totally new system,
Right.
and we want to hear from those.
Basically, it's
non-Conquest
like
players
Zeus
and our
does
Conquest
10%
players who
less
like to
damage in Arena.
Play an Arena to warm up, or like to play Joust if their friends are on.
That's basically what
We
they're
wanna
getting
know
at.
how you
They're
want
like, this
type of
god
system
isn't
be
fun to
run,
play against in this
because
mode, so
we're open to
congratulations,
whatever.
Zeus does 10% less
we
damage
want
in
this to be what's
Joust and
best for our
Arena and
player
Assault
base.
and all that stuff.
So we went a little light. I'm really curious to see how this affects perception of what gods are strong and what gods are weak across the entire game. I mean, we're in uncharted waters.
We gave
and
a
that's
lot.
really
We
exciting.
gave a lot of feedback on
In a
this,
quick
and
note,
we're
I should
like,
say, all
yes,
of
this is
gonna
a
be on
great
patch notes
idea.
as well.
So
Right.
When
You
you
guys are
load
welcome.
into a match in a non-conquest mode, you'll have a system message pop up that says your god is dealing less damage and taking more damage.
Exactly.
With the numbers. You'll also have a little icon on your buff bar that you can scroll, you can hover over if you're on PC and read. We understand that console players don't have that capability. We are working on things in order to try and get that into a more readable state for them, but you have to forgive us, it is not going to be going live with this 9.7 update. But we're really, really excited about it. I think that it's going to open up a whole new set of balance.
Right.
Going forward in our patch notes, we do intend to have, let's say Aries is a good example because he's getting a non-conquest change and a conquest change. It'll say Aries, Shackles now deals 40% damage to bonus damage to jungle monsters. Non-conquest.
Right.
Here it is. So it'll all be under the same umbrella, but I'm pumped. I think it's going to be a really
Duel
cool.
was
Kinda
the
hop into
one-
these changes and speed through them. We're going to start off with nerfs. Aquash going to be the first
Duel
one. a
was
great
the one
example.
game mode
Gonna
that
be
came
dealing,
up that they didn't know what to do with.
Minus 5% damage to gods, minus
And
10%
all of
damage
us
to
said,
minions,
listen,
and then his cooldowns are also
Right
gonna be
now,
seeing,
dual players
some
are playing by
increases as well.
conquest rules.
So on the
The
patch notes,
game
you'll be
is
able to read
already
exactly
not
what
balanced
knobs we
for
have
them.
available to us to tune these guys.
If it's not
You'll notice
balanced
that
for them
ultimate
in a
CDs and
different
non-ultimate
way,
CDs are
it
separate,
doesn't
and
actually
you'll see some explanation why
matter.
on patch notes. Also, all of
And
these
it makes
gods
it easier
nerfs
for it
and
to
buffs
just be
have some
conquest and
stats
then
in
everything
there
else,
to show you
and
why,
not conquest
they're getting
and
these changes.
duel
But
and then everything else.
Aquash
That
is
didn't
the
make any
obvious
sense.
one, right?
Yep.
Between his
You know?
AoE, when he's got the whole fight in front of him, he's very good. That's why he's worse in conquest because there's different angles. Toning down his wave clear.
There also were
is
dual
pretty
mains
important,
in that
and
meeting that
making
said the
ultimate
exact
come
same
up
thing.
a
It wasn't
little bit
like
later
me, the
is also
conquest
pretty
guy,
good.
saying that. There was dual
All right,
players
moving
that
right
were
along.
like,
Artemis minus 5% damage
bro,
to
it's
gods,
not like
and
you're
then
balancing the game
increasing
for
her
us right now. It
ultimate
doesn't
cooldown.
matter.
Yeah, Artemis
You know?
actually the top performing hunter in every single non-conquest mode.
Yeah, she does
She's doing
crazy
good,
work
yeah.
in those.
Is
modes.
Tusky like good whenever they're all
He's
whenever
pretty
everyone's
good.
right
Yeah.
in front of you? Yeah, I think it might be pretty good. So we kind of have our theories on why these gods are performing better in others, and so you'll see more targeted changes directed at those things. But Artemis, blanket very good in those modes, just toning down her damage a little bit and making sure that ultimate's up less often.
Yep. Next one up is another no-brainer. Aries plus 50%
Yep.
cooldown on his ultimate.
Yeah,
Yep.
Aries actually has the biggest difference between his conquest win rate and his non-conquest win rate. He has the most increase from conquest to non-conquest. So that means that the more, he is so much better in non-conquest than he is in conquest. And we feel like it's not really the chains necessarily. I mean, all those things are really good, but it's really no escape.
Right.
And so that one is going to a heavier increase on the ultimate, but no other changes.
Complicated the game even
and the
more.
other exciting thing about this
All
is
of
that I didn't
these
mention,
changes,
gods like Aries,
they
Aquash,
didn't know if they'd make it in
that
the
we
game
know
or
have been
not.
problems,
There's
in
going
these
to
modes
be very
that has
clear
kind of
UI
made sure
that
we
lets you
can't
know.
do as much as we want to do for them in conquest.
There's going to
in
be
order
very
help them.
clear UI.
If this system is very
Like,
successful,
this character
we
is
can
weaker
pair
in this
large
game
buffs
mode.
and
this is
non-conquest
what has
nerfs in the
changed.
same patch in order to really re-energize
They
gods
didn't
that we
know if they'd
haven't
be
seen
able to get
Conquest
it in
because of their dominance
immediately.
in these modes. And so,
Exactly.
But we
I
told
think
them
that-
one of the
and
most
the other way
important
is true,
things
too.
is they have to
So
have
I
UI
think
that
Aries is a good example of a
clarifies
god that's getting a buff
if a god is
and a
buffed or
non-conquest
nerfed outside.
I'm interested to
So.
see how the community feels about that.
Cool. All right, next up for non-conquest nerfs, Khepri going to be taking some more damage and then having his cooldowns increased as well.
Yeah, Khepri was like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I should have written them down on this note. I think Khepri, in terms of win rate across the four non-conquest modes that are casual, I think he was number 1, number 2, number 2, and number 4
Yeah.
in win rate.
That's insane.
He's a good bud.
For a guardian too.
Yeah, like top 4 in all 4, top 2 in 3 of them. He needed a pretty hefty one. So that's why he got a heftier nerf than most.
To be
And
fair,
you know what's up?
he's also like
This is
the
what
best
I'm
in
saying.
conquest. So.
I had to write another one. You know what's the most messed up about this is that his stats are actually not that good in non-conquest modes. I expected him to see, assault. I was like, oh, okay, there's Aquash and Artemis and Khepri and all that kind of stuff, and scroll
again.
Scroll.
Nah.
Zeus is all the way down here. It didn't. I was surprised, but I think that if I were to tell a group of our assault mains, hey man, we're doing non-conquest balance, they're like, great, can't wait for the Zeus nerf.
Exactly.
I'd be like, actually,
Right.
well, his stats aren't that good. Like no one's gonna really
it's
buy
the
that.
perception, for
It's
sure.
perception is a huge part of it. So,
So-
he's receiving a nerf. It's not huge, but we think it's really centered around poke damage, making sure it's his stuff's up a little bit less often. It just felt right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So less damage to gods on Zeus, and then plus 5% on non-ultimate cooldowns.
Correct. Yep. Detonating a little bit less often.
Exactly. All right, let's talk about some non-conquest buffs.
These are going to be so
Yep.
cool.
Kwong,
Yep.
up
I'm ready.
next, taking less damage and reduced cooldowns.
Yeah, as you'll notice, a lot of these buffs are for assassins, and it's very, very prevalent that assassins tend to do less in not less. I guess worse is the better mode. But maybe less damage is true as well. But they do worse in non-conquest game modes. They are really built around jungling, and not many of our non-conquest game modes have jungles. So
Yep.
you can imagine walking straight at people in arena as an assassin is not the best thing for you to be able to do. So Kwong is one of those guys that does need that extra bit of help. And again, you'll notice a trend of a lot of these
Assassins
are
can be
assassins.
due to
Moving
outside
right
of
along, we got a
conquest.
lot of
They can for
assassins.
sure.
Arachne and Bakasura, actually, we can kind of group these together.
Yep.
Both doing the same exact changes. Minus 10% damage taken, and then minus 10% on the ultimate cooldown.
Yeah, both these gods are very similar because their win rates are very poor in these modes, and their win rates in traditional conquest are very good.
Yeah.
They're the opposite of Aries, where Aries is pretty low in conquest, very high in non-conquest. These gods are pretty high in conquest, very low in non-conquest. So, buffs I think are a little bit scarier because I assume it will not feel very good to get, if there's a really good Bakasura player, even if they're not good in Assault, a good Bakasura player is a good Bakasura player, and they're going to be able to make it work. We don't want those gods to become the best in these modes.
Exactly.
We just want to bring up the floor a little bit. So just trying to focus on not having them deal a whole lot of extra damage, just maybe they can survive a little bit better in order to get that damage out.
Cool. All right, moving right along, we got another assassin, Camazot's, going to get minus 10% on non-ultimate and his ultimate cooldown.
Yeah, this one surprised me. If you would have asked me what gods were going to be on this list that needed help, Camazot's would not have been there because he is not like Arachne or Bakasura in that they just have
It
no
has
range,
been 2 hours.
right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna
range
watch
as an
the
assassin,
skins.
But
Honestly.
let's just
When
say
there's
the data
patch
was
notes
very
where they do
convincing
all the skins
on
at
this
the end,
one.
I don't think I'm gonna
Again,
watch
not
the skins
directly
because I
increasing his damage.
honestly
this one does
don't
not
care.
actually help his survivability through
When they do
damage
like
taken,
new gods,
just
they
that
do
he's
the
gonna be able to
skins
cast it.
before the new
And it's worth
god.
noting, by the
So
way,
you
that any
have to
cooldown
watch them all
reductions
before
like
you
this
get to the new
do
god.
not
But
go
like,
against your CDR.
if I have the option to,
you're
not gonna watch.
starting the game with 10% cooldown,
yeah.
but
You can still build
0%
40,
on your UI, and you can still build 40. If you build Sphinx's Bauble, I guess you can get
What am I
70.
gonna do? Sit
There you
there,
go.
look at all the skins. Ooh, look at all the
Have fun
money
with
they
that.
can make to
All
not
right,
pay
moving
the
right along,
pro
we got
players.
Janice going to be doing plus 10% damage to gods in non-conquest modes.
Yeah, the worst mage in non-conquest by a mile.
Yeah.
Traditional mage, Alquang being down there, but a god that is predicated on moving
Hashtag
around
World
through
of Fist.
walls, less space to move, less success.
Yeah,
to be
I'm
honest.
just thinking like, how are you playing Giannis in arena when there's no walls in arena?
If
Even
it makes
Assault,
you
there's
feel
only
better,
one wall
Janice
you
is
can
also
really
one
go
of the
through
worst
there.
gods
I
in
mean,
Conquest.
It's really tough to be
So
playing Giannis in non-conquest mode, so this will definitely
makes you
give
feel
a
any
little bit of
better.
a boost.
Yep.
All right, we had one mage, but we got 2 more assassins for non-conquest. First up is Set. So he's going to do more damage to minions, take less damage, and then his non-ultimate cooldowns are going to be reduced.
Did you guys know that you had no lower chance of winning a game of Smite than getting Set in Assault?
Yeah.
He had the worst win rate of any god in any mode I have
goodness.
I like
ever
that.
seen.
Crazy.
I don't even want to say the number.
Yeah.
So again, a buff that a god like Set in particular, high skill cap, can actually be successful if you build him the right way and play him the right way in these modes. But the average player is struggling so heavily.
Right.
These buffs are all small, but
I wonder what it
help
was.
him exist.
I can
a
tell
little
you
bit
guys
better.
right now, Nox's
Again, I
win
think that we
rate
want to be sensitive to.
is the worst that I've
oh my
ever
God,
seen
the
in
Set on the other
Smite.
team is good,
For
and they
Conquest,
only because he got
Her
buffed in
diamond plus win rate in
non-conquest.
Conquest is
I'm very worried,
38%.
I'm very cognizant of that feeling and want to make sure
So-
that that isn't the primary emotion taken away from this. So this is where we're starting. If it ends up that the buffs aren't working the same way
And
the
that
buffs
is
are, all that kind of stuff, we're willing to
unbelievably
adjust.
low.
Absolutely.
Set might
So
be
if it's
one that
lower
surprises
than
you.
that,
That assault win rate was abysmal.
Oh my goodness.
Abysmal.
All right, and then last up for non-conquest ballads, Serket. Going to be taking a little bit less damage and dealing more damage to enemy gods.
same sort of thing. Assassin that requires you to use your mobility when the whole fight is happening in front of you, and there aren't really many flank options, there aren't walls to get over, all that kind of stuff. She loses a lot of her effectiveness. So just making her a little bit better in those instances.
All right, well, thanks so much. That wraps it up for balance. We got through it. Mid-season
We did
balance out the door. I'm so excited. We have so much to go over. So much for players to get their hands on. I'm super excited about mid-season.
PTS should be
I wanted to
Friday.
say thank you for Aggro and Lermy for taking us through all of that, but also I wanted to say a special thank you to a group of our content creators
Yes.
and
Yes,
Olympians
absolutely.
and pro
Thank you,
players.
guys.
It was actually the first time that we've ever done something like this. We held a couple of focus group sessions to where some content creators and Olympians were able to get a hold of patch notes early for mid-season and give us feedback, and they even got a chance to play mid-season a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Really early on in the development to give us their first initial feedback on mid-season. It was a really great experience.
It was so helpful. I can't overstate how important that was on the development side for us to get that early feedback and gauge like, oh, they didn't really like this. How can we make this feel a little bit better? Or this was scary to them. Are we sure this is the direction we want to go? I mean, we made a lot of cuts to
Yeah,
the
did.
things we wanted to.
It
and
did change
we were also
quite a
able
bit.
to push more
So-
on abilities or items that we were like, I'm not really sure. This kind of scares us. They're like, no, that'll be fine. You could even go a little harder on that.
Yeah.
So I think that it
One
was
of the
really good,
one of the
and
ones that
I
we were
really
like,
appreciated that
no,
open
go
line of
harder on
communication
that
with
was
our
the
Olympians and content
projectile
creators and pros,
increase
and,
earring.
and I look forward to
It was
hopefully doing more.
originally
Yeah,
like
and the best part about
you
that
get
was that we got people
40%
of all
faster
different scales.
projectile
I mean, we had
increase,
the best players in
and
the
we're
world
gonna
try it,
reduce
and
your
then we had our
auto damage
Olympians
by
who were really great
40%, and we're
representations
like,
of our community and the
nobody's
people that play
ever gonna
all of our
buy
different
it.
game modes
You
on
can't just
every
take
single
away
console.
half of
I
their
mean,
damage.
That just there's no better way to get
it's
feedback
dead on
than from that
impact.
group of people.
Yeah, it's cool. Your attack's going
All
faster,
right,
but
well,
they're
that
gonna
wraps
hit
it up
like
for balance.
feathers.
Let's quickly go through some community news. I'm going to speed through this just because I know it's been a long show. We got some cool stuff to talk about. First of all, Smite Night is still going strong in 9/7. We've got a calendar of events that's going to be out on social media. Going to be seeing some more returning game modes. I think we've got some Jade Corruption Joust that's going to be headed your way in 9/7.
Why wasn't Ajax
So
in the
lots of
patch
amazing
note
stuff
show?
on Smite Night,
Oh,
so keep an eye out on
he
Saturday.
recently
for the
got
new
a
game modes, but
AMA
not
pillow.
only that, the Smite Night store, which we have some awesome exclusive rotating skins that
You know
come
how
into
it
that
is.
store every Saturday, so be sure you're logging in and checking that out. Next up, we've got Happy Little Painter Jean-Qui, our Prime Gaming reward. Today is the last day to get
Ajax
that
will
reward. So
remember
if you haven't
that.
got it already, click that crown in the top right of your screen if you're watching on Twitch. Be sure to claim Happy Little Painter Jean-Qui because it is gone tomorrow. And the skin that is coming up tomorrow is going to be
Wow.
Regal Warrior.
Happy Little
Erlang
Painter
Shin.
Jean-Qui. You're
That's
telling me
gonna
you can
be,
get a free
coming
Smite
up in Prime
skin
Gaming.
with Twitch
Lots
Prime,
of
and
exciting
you
stuff coming
subscribe
your
to the
way,
Twitch
so
Yes
be sure to
community for
check that out.
free?
Next
What?
up, another
For
exciting news
ad-free
regarding Tier 2
experience?
skins
What?
and shadow skins.
That's
For those
crazy.
people who've been paying attention to that.
That's
in 9/7
crazy.
mid-season, those are all going to be available for favor. Super exciting change. I know a lot of
Oh, that's
players have been
good.
asking for more
That's a big
ways to get the
change.
shadow skin. So if you've got
That is a
some
big
favor
change.
saved up,
Tier
you can
2
pick
and
those
shadow
up
skins for
during the
favor.
mid-season update.
Okay.
And then last up for community news, remember, shop.highresstudios.com is going away in the next couple of weeks. So be sure to order what you can. Lots of amazing merch on that website, but the store is leaving and going to be going away soon.
The store is going away because it looks cheesy.
Go to shop.highresstudios.com.
I accidentally clicked on the
pick
link
up
to
all
it the
of
other
that
day, and I
awesome
looked
stuff
at it, and I was like, bro, this
online.
looks like a
And that's
knockoff
it for
shop.
community news.
So
And
that's why it's
while
going
I was
away.
doing that, we said farewell to Aggro and Lermy and said hi to AJ and Clumsy to walk
Oh,
through
there's
some of the
AJ.
amazing content that's coming y'all's way. What's going on, fellas?
Hello, happy
He's
to be here.
wearing,
I know, I'm super
he's wearing
excited.
more AMA stuff.
All that balance. I'm excited to look at skins.
Look at all this y'all did. You'd only saved me a couple pages. No,
I know,
of course.
right? We're here to talk about the cool stuff.
Yeah, and Clumsy and I were very involved with Ryan and Lexi on all of those awesome balance changes that I'm really excited about. Can't wait to play them. You even got some cool quality of life in there. We got tier 2s and
exactly.
shadow skins going up for sale now for favor.
Yeah, agent free sub. What?
Shadow skins.
But we have a lot of really cool artistic content
know,
to look
right?
at today. The team's been hard at work, and there's
Okay. I don't care about the artistic content coming to the game. So, big plug is for each and every one of you guys. Thank you for coming out to the stream today. The mid-season patch notes will absolutely change the game in ways that it's impossible to know. I mean, we're undoing CDR caps. We're making projectiles faster. We're making, I don't know, are assassins going to be the best supports in the game? I don't know. Can Sylvanas mid be the best mage because he could just blow you up with Rang does? Literally, absolutely no idea. Nobody knows. So the only way to find out is going to be to play it. Hopefully we can play PTS on Friday. If we can't play PTS on Friday, then we'll just YOLO play the game on Tuesday when the patch comes out. I mean, the patch comes out in 6 days. You don't have to wait that long, so it's not that bad. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a Twitchin' day, y'all.